So we gone for a little bit. Went to Isetti Ranch, visiting James Gilliland, looking at the UFOs. So there's been a lot in the UFO community that have disregarded James Gilliland over the years, and he's been around for like 4 decades. I've been following him for like probably about 3. But we've seen a lot of people that have been marginalized and basically pushed down and pushed away, and then some others seem to have risen. And this is part of the program. This is part of what happens within the deep state community. They infiltrate. They get nice and close to everybody, and then they backstab them. All right. A lot of people have been shut down. A lot of people have walked away because it's dangerous to reveal. And then there seems to be some that just reveal and reveal and reveal and reveal, and nothing seems to happen to them. Very suspect. So James Gilliland has been, revealing for quite some time. I've seen his videos and so forth. I've had him on a show, I think once or twice before, but we're going to have him on again, hopefully in the next couple of days or so. And we'll talk a little bit deeper about a lot of this stuff. The ranch itself is absolutely amazing, very spiritual. There's like a Sasquatch that hangs out there. They're taking pictures of his footprint. People leave him gifts, food gifts, and so forth. He's got a lot of stories of it. Mother Mary. A lot of people taking pictures and video and so forth. A lot of spiritual beings come in there. They were there while we were there, and we tapped into them. I saw the UFOs on 3 different nights that we were there. One night it was just incredible, the amount of UFOs. There's like a highway that's right over his property. And of course, one of the reasons why I stayed silent, having gone up there, because I was like, should I do a show? Should I talk about it? But he gets really leaned on by the military industrial complex for revealing. And that's what's happened to me. When I started to reveal just offhand UFO activity, and then they came after me. So when I see all these other people that reveal on a massive scale and nothing happens to them, I'm like, okay, who are you working for? Who are you working with? Who's promoting you? And we know their names, right? So I've talked about some of these names. It's not worth it to reveal some of the stuff. But another thing, I went there for an intuitive wellness course and learned a lot of good stuff. Rife technology. I did a Rife session. I bought a little Rife machine, and Tracy's like, I was there too. Yeah, you were there too. And so, do your own show, Tracy. So we basically had a great time there, and it was a lot of fun meeting with like-minded people. There were several people, lots of people there, and I just went there on the cusp, just random. They saw my name and it was like, is that Michael Jaco that's coming? So and then I show up, and so it was funny, fun time. And so a lot of people up there, they're using LifeWave technology, so it's very good. I did really well, and Tracy did really well on the Rife machine. We attributed that to being patchies. All right, so patchers. I think that's what Rebecca called it, patchers. So patchettes, and so it's incredible technology. We'll talk about Rife and how she's going to come on a show as well, Rebecca, and we'll talk about the Rife technology and his history. Wow, talk about total suppression of something that was really good for humanity. So it was good for me. I learned a few things. I need to do some liver cleansing, so I'm going to be doing that. And little critters in there, like you're getting a free ride on me, and so I'm going to get rid of them. I don't free riders. Right? So parasites are bane to all of us, not even knowing they're there. So that's a technology that can reveal that kind of stuff. So I got a Rife machine, love it. Very good, Fairy Minx. So, you know, I've done Rife technology before. The big machines. This was this was a smaller machine. I guess technology's gotten to the point where you can move it around, and it's mobile. And so that's the one we used. And we actually bought a Rife technology that we can wear and dial it into different frequencies and work on stuff. So really good stuff. So anyway, I have some videos and so forth that I took on my phone. When you put on NVG, you could see a lot of the you know, orbs and so forth that were flying across the sky, and then some jets would come in. You could hear the jets, probably military jets. They had like banks of red lights across. I don't know what kind of jets they were, but anyway, they kept coming into the area where the highway, you know, the orb and, you know, UFO highway is. Mount Adams, which it's a great view of Mount Adams, and we saw what looked like some openings that were happening in Mount Adams, all over Mount Adams. And Mount Adams, where we're looking at, 13 miles away, there's no roads on the area. There's no trails on this area. And James and other people have been up there with like a million-watt power light and shined it back at the camp, and no one could see it. So whatever's opening, whatever doorways or whatever is opening there in a mountain are pretty significant. James talked about how it's a Native American land, and he's talked about how the Native Americans are like, don't go up there, right? Because there's, and I guess some people have, and they've seen some interesting beings. We'll put it to that. Maybe James might talk about that when he comes on the show. So very, very interesting. A lot of the stuff is hidden from us. We ate incredible meals. Everything was like right off the farm right there. Very, very good. You know, people, environment, food, and information and so forth. Meditations every day. So I was getting into that zone. So it was really good. So great stuff. So what's going on in the world? Do you guys miss me? I know you'll miss me. I know you'll miss me. I know you'll miss me blind. Chameleon. Boy George. Everybody like Boy George? Yeah. So it's like Boy George was a little bit strange back then, wasn't it? But everybody's like, the music's good. Who cares, you know? But they've been seeding in this transgender stuff for a while. And that's one of the things, you know, I think a lot of us are starting to go, no, right? No. And Boy George these days, he's got a beard, he's got short hair. He says, I was out of line. So that's what he's talking about now. So that's good. Don't quit your day job. Thanks. Let's hear you sing, JWC. Let's see what your voice is like. Come, chameleon. La, 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 la. So anyway, East City Ranch. Let me show you guys what it looks like. Its website's awesome. And here's some paranormal stuff. There's Mother Mary. You know, people taking pictures of them, you know, beings that come in, you know, phenomenal. Here's Kuan Yin. Here's a being from Lyra, lion being. So here's the Bigfoot footprints. There's the snow, and see there's James's foot, and there's Bigfoot. So yeah, he's out there. He hangs out, right? I went to the restroom one night. So there's in the cabin that we were in, there's no restroom, so you got to go to a restroom. So it's like camping. It's fun. It was fun. So beautiful cabin, very comfortable. But we both went to the restroom. We could hear Sasquatch out there. He likes to play like an owl, so he makes these whoo hoo hoo, but it's like that's not an owl. So he's out there playing around. So it's pretty funny. I think he looks over the place too. So no funny business. No weird people going to get in there. So anyway, here's orbs. There's all these videos you can go to when you go to the iseti.org site. You're going to see different orbs.
Look at that. What? See? It's a light spirit. Look at him go. Look at him. He's going to the west. Totally against the wind.
There's one.
There's one. That's an orb. See it?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's nice.
Can you see this gun? Come over here and look at the screen.
See, there he goes. Oh, there's one. There's one.
So the orbs often are beings. That are in a different state. And then one of the reasons why I didn't want to like say we were there because he gets all these military vehicles that come around. All right, so that's fun. So that's one of the reasons why I was low key. They come in and they harass some certain people when they come in. They're getting views of the orbs and so forth. But I highly recommend it. If there was any doubt in your mind that there were and you wanted to see UFOs, you go and you can go there on the weekend at night. Sign up for the weekend, Skywatch on the weekends. You can do it every night, of course, there. But the weekends seem to be, they put on a show, evidently. And so you can go see it if you're in that area. He has different courses on the 8-8. There's the Lion's Gate. There's a lot of lion energy that's there at SETI Ranch. Lyra, lion. And so I'm connected to that, and James connected to that. So there's a lot of beings out there. Like I said, no video on your end, only sound. You can't see them. Can't see or hear them. Well, maybe I wasn't sharing the screen, but sometimes I do that, unfortunately. So anyway,
There you are.
ESETI Ranch. You saw it, Trace?
I see you.
Did you see ESETI stuff?
Go back and see. Yeah, it's on there.
Did you see ESETI stuff?
It's on there. It's showing. I can hear them all watching them.
Huh. So.
Hold on. You were trying to pull them up, and now I don't think you can see it now.
Saw nothing. Okay. No worries. Go to ESETI. That sucks. I wasn't showing it. So a few days without doing shows, and look at me. I'm like, I lose it. So, I lose my edge. All right. So let's go into some other things that seem to be pressing for different people. People see different things, I guess, just like at ESETI. Some people that come there that should be people that are part of the UFO community come there and they see them and then they leave and they say they didn't see anything. So there's some silliness that goes on there. Now, Lindsey Graham, of course, passed away 17 days ago. Q number, of course. So there's a lot of people out there. They're saying they don't see a wrinkly flag. For me, it depends on the angle, I guess. If you look at this, it looks pretty wrinkly to me. Some people claim that if it's wrinkly, that it's treasonous stuff. But there's people out there that are saying that it's not. So you're going to see what you're going to see. You're going to think what you want to think. This is the way it is right now. It's so interesting to me. And to be I think it'd be an apologist for someone that's really evil, right? Lindsey Graham was a bad boy. He died he only had $1.1 million. Yeah, because he spent it all on boys. Where they have lots of human trafficking, he would go to Ukraine quite often, and he'd be there for a few days, and he'd have a business. He'd have a expense account that was in the thousands, tens of thousands. What do you spend? What are you spending money there on? So, not a good guy. I've called him out for a long time, but evidently, There's some people out there that are saying that his military, time was okay. Right. Okay, guys. Right. Whatever. And, like I said, people are going to see what they want to see. They're going to believe, boy and boy, whatever. Right. So I'm not going to go there, because evidently there's some people that still believe this guy's a good guy. It's baffling to me. I thought everybody in our community was of the same opinion that this was not a good boy. Right. And so anyway, there's people out there saying he's good, I guess, and that there was no wrinkly flag. I mean, I'm looking at that. It's obviously wrinkly. It should be super pressed, right? It's not, and some people are saying it's not as bad as John McCain's. Okay, but it's still wrinkly. And then they show a different angle where the light catches it. It doesn't, you can't see the wrinkles. I'm like, God. And these people are saying people that think Mike Flynn's good too. So anyway, there's a lot of that going on out there. Apologists and people that just do not seem to have the bigger picture. So I'm going to continue to reveal as much of the bigger picture as I can. Some people are not going to like it, and we'll just go somewhere else and go with where the people are compromised consciously, like I talk about. So it is what it is. All right. So let's talk about some other things that are going on out there. Earth changes. Now, I've had JP on my show. JP is basically a super soldier dude like moi, and he talks about how there's arcs. I'm listening to one of his books, and he was interviewed by Michael Sala many times, dozens and dozens of times. Who is a UFO investigator and alien race, technologies and, ancient alien stuff. So JP, it seems to be involved in stuff. And so he went to what's called an ark, like Noah's Ark, right? So these arks, I've talked about this years ago. We started bringing this up, and I remote viewed them. I believe that they are here on Earth, several arcs. Now, these arcs are basically extremely large craft that can hold a lot of people, tens of thousands of people, and sustain them. They have technology in there where they reproduce water, where they make food and all that kind of stuff. And they can be taken either off-world for a period of time while Earth changes happen, or they can go to different places like Mars colony. There's the biggest moon in our solar system, Ganymede, has a lot of colonies there, all right? And I think that a lot of Earth changes in the past, some of these beings have basically gone off world. They've gone into the inner Earth. There's inner Earth beings that are extremely advanced. And imagine right now. So you would take everyone that doesn't believe Lindsey Graham is a good guy, and just kidding. If you do, and you're just maybe 1% of things I don't agree with you about. So it's okay. But if there's people that are consciously advanced for the most part. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, and I don't think there's anybody on Earth right now that's perfect. But if you're fairly advanced, I mean, you're not raping, pillaging, sacrificing, and stealing, and all that stuff, you might be able to go on one of these arcs, all right? Or maybe you have in the past, and in one of your incarnations, or maybe there's people that lived here like Lemurians, Atlanteans, that were of the higher vibrational frequencies that got on these arcs or went in internal. Because I've been to Mount Shasta, and I strongly believe the Lemurian came out when I was hiking by myself up the mountain. It was pale-skinned guy and long blonde hair, silver, right, silver hair, and he was telling me to be careful up the way a little bit. There was some slick ice where I was, going along the road because it had been a big snowstorm earlier. And he said, "God be with you." And I was like, "That's unusual." This was years ago, and it's a little bit more common now for people to say that, not as much, but then it was like that was odd, and he was odd because he came out of nowhere. And he had a little backpack on, and he had a hood on, and then he pulled his hood down when he talked to me. I could see his long silver hair, and he was very tall. And I was like, "Oof, I'm looking at a Lemurian." I was kind of shocked a little bit, but we had a nice little conversation and had a nice exchange. And he continued down the mountain. I went up. I was still in awe of that meeting, but I believe that there are and a lot of people talk about this. There are inner Earth beings that are advanced. Of course, they're not going to come out into our environment because the deep state would, go after them like they do with other UFO craft and so forth. So that's not aligned with their evil and not aligned with evil ETs and so forth. So we're I think maybe coming up on a period of time where, not like Noah's Ark, and maybe Noah's Ark was a real thing, it was wooden, but I think there were, and I strongly believe that there were craft that would take certain people off planet, either for a period of time they would come back, or because Earth goes through many cycles of destruction, and it's obvious, right? Of course, that's hidden for the most part, but if you do a little research, and if you have a really credible archaeologist and so forth, they will tell you that Earth has been through many cycles of destruction. So what happens during those destructions? What happens to humanity? Humanity is obviously continuing on. Is there just a few people that survive? Now, we've had all these stories about these beings that seem to come from the sky and are from, there was one I remember hearing, I think this was in Mexico or something like that, where a submarine came, described a submarine, and Quetzalcoatl came off, and the feathered one, they called them, and revealed all kind of technologies and information and so forth that helped them get on the fast track as far as rebuilding civilization and so forth. So there's lots of stories about this in the past. I think there is a possibility that we may be coming up on another one of those potential periods, because a lot of people have talked about how these craft they're being detected, and for the longest time they weren't detected because they're activating again, and some of them are buried very deep, but through vibratory fields and so forth that can be liquefied or whatever, and they can just rise up and so JP was talking about how one is in the Atlantic Ocean, and over the top of it is like some kind of structure. It's like a oil platform or something, and there's a elevator that goes down to it, and that you can go inside of it. Now, you can only go so far depending on your consciousness, because there were some Chinese that were with him and their group, Chinese, Russians, and so forth, and the Chinese could not go so far, but so far, and they were kind of pissed about that, but that was their consciousness level. The ship itself wouldn't let them advance any further. And I talked about how a lot of these craft, there's your consciousness has to be at a certain level for you to be able to operate or interact with the craft, right? And my memories of flying some of these vehicles in the past was that I interacted, and I was at one with the craft that I flew. And so there's all kind of stories about a lot of this stuff that's going to come out in the future. So so James tapped into some of the stuff that I'm involved with, which I'm like, I knew that, and I've been telling people that. So he tapped into it to a great extent, and he doesn't really know me that much at all, but he tapped into all the stuff that I've been, going over for years now. So desperate search for survivors after massive earthquake that just recently happened in the last several hours in Japan. So another 7.1 very high on their scale, the highest 7, and it doesn't go to 8, it goes to 7. That's the greatest shaking that can be experienced. And let's look at some of the devastation.
Now to Japan, where round-the-clock rescue efforts are now underway.
All right, so over here in Shanghai, back over here in China, not necessarily Shanghai, there were a couple of earthquakes just, I'll go into that in a second, just hours before the Japan quake hit. So kind of like a pre-quake event happened in China, and then a more accelerated, higher level happened in Japan. So is this going to continue? Some people say maybe, some people say there's a possibility. So I think we're definitely going to see stronger earthquakes in our near-term future.
Earthquake. It struck in southern Japan's Kumamoto prefecture, and CBS News foreign correspondent Anna Koren has the latest.
As the earth violently shook Japan's southern island of Kyushu, the residents of Kumamoto prefecture witnessed its devastating force. The 6.8 magnitude earthquake toppled expressways.
Now, USGS, which has monitoring stations far away from Japan, is calling it 6.8. Of course, the Japanese have the most advanced technology about earthquakes in the world, and they have monitoring stations all over Japan, and they're saying it's a 7.1. Now, I've talked about this for years. Dutch Sense, who's also investigative, I'd say, journalist as far as earthquakes are concerned, has talked about how USGS downgrades earthquakes as part of what they do. They're constantly downgrading them. And that's part of the disinformation that goes on out there. Because if you get a certain levels of earthquakes, it raises the alarm bells. So they don't want us to be alarmed. They don't want us to be informed. And that's what a lot of these government agencies these days are about. The Japanese are trying to keep their people alive, keep their people, continuing, just like an arc, So now, unfortunately, things happen regardless of what other people have said differently. Sometimes you'll get a different, happening or timeline other than what, some people have predicted. So we've had people that have predicted, many people actually, that have predicted that Japan would completely go away, would sink into the ocean, would be completely destroyed. One of those, Edgar Casey, and there's been others since then. So if that is the case, then that's unfortunate. That could be the reason why we have these arcs on the standby to rescue people and take them to different places. Hopefully, if it becomes obvious and we're getting a little bit better, myself and Intuitive and other people that are really tapping into the sun's activity, planetary alignments, and so forth, are getting to the point where we can almost predict when these are going to happen. I predicted several times when earthquakes were going to happen.
While buildings crumbled, erupting into flames. Dashcam video captured the moment an explosion occurred at the Aeon shopping mall in Kumamoto City 1 hour after the quake, sending debris flying onto a nearby road. The mall had already been evacuated except for employees when the blast ripped through, causing the second story to collapse. Local media reports at least 2 people have died and half a dozen are injured. Eyewitnesses reported smelling gas before the explosion. Today's earthquake follows a deadly quake that struck the same region a decade ago. Even the centuries-old Kumamoto castle sustained damage as part of its defensive walls collapsed again. Japan is sadly accustomed to these types of natural disasters and has strict building codes in place to prevent mass casualties. 300,000 people have been evacuated from their homes, and the government is warning of more aftershocks in the coming days.
All right, so more of this is coming on a higher level and frequency as we move forward. I believe this has happened Many times throughout Earth's history, like I've talked about, humanity has been devastated because they weren't warned and because they didn't have safeguards and backup plans of what to do in case this stuff happens. So now we're seeing more and more people are talking about it. Yes, Hoover Dam also could go down, and maybe that's why there's not a lot of water there right now. Maybe they knew that and they're keeping the water from going there. I don't know. I think it's going to fill up again, but we'll see how this El Nino works out. I think there's going to be atmospheric rivers like crazy, dumping massive amounts of rain going through California, maybe even as all the way up north. Normally, the El Nino atmospheric rivers, go through Southern California and across, but now they're predicting it's going to be a little bit further north, Northern California perhaps. But I think that because it's such a massive El Nino, the biggest in our historical records, I believe is what it's going to be. It could push up into Oregon, which really needs it right now because Oregon is burning like never before, 1 million plus acres on fire in Oregon. Washington State on the verge. Lots of places are burning. Europe is burning. It's like I said, it's one of those times in Earth's history where there's massive change that happens and devastation and earthquakes and volcanoes and so forth. It could be one of the reasons why Oregon's having such problems is because the volcanic activity may be picking up because there's been several earthquakes under some of the volcanoes in Oregon. So that could be because there's a magma movement. Magma, of course, coming close to the surface could cause fires, right? So a lot of the fires potentially, I think that a lot of them are being set as well. And you have a very corrupt government, of course, it's Democrat, that's in Oregon. There were some people, and that's all I'm going to say, that were at the workshop that I was at. They knew families that had been involved in fighting fires for 4 generations, and they were loggers. They were loggers for several generations, and the loggers obviously, they would go out and fight the fires. So you depend on the loggers to put the fires out because, of course, they're going to protect their future investment and so forth. But then that changed, and loggers weren't involved in preventing and making sure that the forests were in good repair and weren't going to like explode and like they do now. So now the chemtrails basically make trees super violently explosive when the fires come around. So that's some of the things that we're seeing with a lot of these fires. So some of them, I believe, are being set, and some of them are not. Now, this group that does the firefighting, they send people all over the country to fight fires. They noticed there was a fire starting to kick up in Oregon, and they contacted the government. And the government said, don't worry about that. They sent people anyway. And it's a good thing because eventually that turned into one of the major fires that's burning right now. So because they had people there early enough on, it didn't get really out of control. But some of the places that they said they didn't need anybody, there was only a couple people there fighting fires. And so they showed up, and it's kind of the same thing. They want to make sure that their state, their environment is not going to get decimated, which unfortunately Oregon is. Oregon, I spent, some time in Oregon. I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail through all of Oregon and through the absolutely incredible, beautiful country. And I've been to Portland back when Portland was nice, back in the late 70s, 78, 79. Portland Rose Festival, America's most beautiful city for a couple years in a row, no more, right? Because of Democrats. The Democrats, like I keep saying, have to go. And the Democrats just put their convention space up for collateral for $15 million because they're not raising enough money. In fact, Republicans, which aren't much better, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, and many others, are basically out, collecting 7-1 to Democrats, and that's completely flipped. It used to be that Democrats always got more money, but they didn't do well with it. Hillary Clinton spent $1 billion on her campaign. I think President Trump, in his first run, spent like a few $100 million or something like that, and he won. So, of course, Democrats, they steal money. They probably didn't use all that money for her election campaign. Somebody was pocketing it. They were money laundering it and all kind of crazy stuff. So anyway, I think that, like I've said in many other shows that I've done on other channels, and of course on my channel, Wano Saban is the same, thinks the same. I think Nino thinks the same, that we're going to have election pause. All right. And I think a lot of stuff is going to start to get revealed in the coming weeks and months leading up to the election. 2020, it's not over yet. And we're going to see a lot of this information continually revealed. And it's really starting to come out. I've seen a lot of it now. It's two wings of the same bird. Yeah, Democrats and Republicans, both of them need to go away, really, in my opinion. So I'm not saying that Republicans are better. It is what it is. They're a little bit better than horrific. All right, so, and that's about it. All right, let's look at some of the other stuff that's going on with the world. And here's On the Pulse with Silky.
Here are the raw numbers from the Chinese network that we keep coming in right now. First shock, magnitude 5.7, 10 kilometers deep. That's about 6 miles. 11:16 in the morning, Beijing local.
So both of these quakes, there was a 5.7 and then followed, I think 18 minutes later by 5.8. Kind of similar to what happened in Venezuela. We had a 7.1 and then 7.6 within seconds after that one. So here's another, boom, quake, double tap. And then you have right across the Sea of Japan, I think, that area, there is the quake that I just went over, 7.1 in Japan, which was fairly devastating. Of course, Japanese have really, geared themselves up for, girded their loins for massive quakes. And that's been obviously very helpful for them to survive a lot of these quakes. But it won't help them when the islands start to shake so much that they start to disappear into the sea, as a lot of people have predicted. But we'll see how that works out. All right. Consciousness is a very interesting thing. It can cause things to not go the way it's planned sometimes.
Only 18 minutes later, magnitude 5.8, same depth, within a few kilometers and miles off the first. Now, two earthquakes.
So 10K, and Japanese quake 10K. We've heard 10K is where they have the maglev trains, some of the DUMs and so forth. Was that what was happening? That's not why. They would never do that. All right. So now, when DUMs are taken out, of course, they run through to make sure there's no children and other humans there. And when I say humans, it could be people that have been genetically altered, which often happens in some of those DUMs that the evil ones use. So the special forces people go through and make sure there's none of that. Clear it out. If there is, sometimes they have to fight their way in, fight their way out, rescue, and then they destroy those DUMs. Now, there's thermobaric bombs that are designed. I was a demolition expert at SEAL 6. I know there was some stuff that was moving in that direction. Of course, that was a long time ago. I don't know why I'm not big on the screen, and I just got kicked out. Can you guys see me now? You blacked out? They blacked me out, evidently. So, black screen, deep state, yes. So if you guys got me now, screen black, screen is black still. Yes, you got me now? Yes, yes. Okay. So is it normal size? Why is my visual effects so small? So I'm not a small man. So so anyway, looks like I still got the show going on. See you in the left side. So small, yes, small screen. Let me go back and see what's going on. Maybe if I share the screen and then exit out of that. So let's see what Silky has to say. So she's talking about the double quake, and boy, I'm revealing a lot, I guess. I feel like I'm revealing a lot. So it wouldn't surprise me they take me down like that. That's the first time I've been taken down like that. So anyway, here it is.
That close in space, that close in time, at that depth, those are not two separate events that happened to share a morning. That's one fault system. I want to make that clear, guys. That is rupturing twice. And then 6 miles, 10 kilometers, that's shallow if they keep the depth at that level. So right. Shallow, that we know for sure. And that's important and then, because...
You know, what the heck is that screen? So, holy smokes. Yeah, this is all discombobulated. Wow. So that piano in the background, that's not mine. I don't play piano. Although I would like to have. I don't know what's going on with this. It kicked me out and then brought me in all discombobulated. How funny. Not. Oh, well, we'll figure this out later. But jackasses. All right, so it's interesting, all the different things that are happening right now, and you know, we've talked about how they're not going to let us play much longer. I don't think on this on social media before they take all of us down that reveal. So we'll see. So let's go into some more information. So record warm seas power 3 storms at once in the Pacific Ocean. And there was a young lifeguard, 16-year-old, that basically went out and saved a 10-year-old. And it's quite amazing. I think he's probably going to get an award at the White House. That's on my X account if you want to go check that out. Record warm seas, like I said, power 3 storms. And that's what's causing massive waves that are hitting the Pacific coast of Cali. So Guinevere, Fausto, and Dolphin. So 3 major storms. That's the El Nino, which all that warm water, hyper warm water, probably at some point the warmest waters in history, I believe, is what's going to happen. All right, so where's the information on this? The Washington Post. Sign up for the 7 newsletters. Right? No. Sign up for mine. I don't have a newsletter, but sign up for my shows. Learn a lot more than you will at the Washington Post. All right, so the Washington Post is you can't look at their info unless you sign up for it and pay money. So, and I've signed up for some of their stuff in the past. Who knows? Maybe I will at some point. So Oregon wildfires explode over 1.5 million acres. So yesterday, early yesterday, it was less than 1 million. So it exploded in size.
Welcome back to today's wildfire update. And if you were following along yesterday, Oregon's fire picture has shifted fast overnight. 2 of Oregon's biggest fires just posted major growth, and a brand new large fire has joined today's list. The Big Grass Fire grew from 220,000 acres yesterday to 300,000 acres today, and it's still only about 5% contained. And there's a fire we weren't tracking yesterday, the Coleman Creek Fire near Ventura, now mapped at 140,000 acres and 0% contained. Nationally, the country remains at National Preparedness Level 5, the highest level on the scale, meaning firefighting resources are stretched about as thin as they get. All right, let's walk through Oregon's major fires one by one and show you exactly what's changed since yesterday. Oregon still has more large fires than any other state, with today's National Interagency Fire Center report counting 34 active incidents statewide. Let's start with the 2 biggest, the Big Grass Fire, 25 miles southwest of Jordan Valley.
All right, they're big. They're really big. And the air pollution is the worst in the world in Oregon right now. Now, when I drove up to Washington State, I went through Bend, Oregon. I had people told me over the years how beautiful Bend, Oregon was. I had a couple buddies that I work with in SEAL teams that were from Bend, Oregon. I was from Columbia, South Carolina, and there were a lot of guys in the SEAL teams. Guys come from all over the country. Sometimes we had a couple Brits, Brit brothers, they're twins, I think, that were in SEAL teams. And I think we had Filipinos and so forth. So, worldwide. But Columbia, South Carolina and Bend, Oregon had a lot of people. And there was no other place that I knew of, and maybe there is at this point, but back in my day, Bend, Oregon and Columbia, South Carolina had more SEALs from those 2 locales than any other location in the United States or the world for that matter. So very cool. So I had to go check it out. All right. So I went there a little bit out of the way, add a couple hours to the time, my driving time. We stopped there overnight, went down into the town, but driving into that area, smoky, lots of smoke, and it was bad. And then when we left that next morning, it was even worse. We had to turn off our ventilation, and then we got to a place where we're kind of like out of that range. Then it was much better. So anyway, once we got to the what was that Wild Spring or Hot Springs Indian Reservation area? Wow, what a beautiful area! I think it's called Hot Springs, but it's got it had horses all over the place on the range as you went, and then you went into the forest. The forest was like massive, beautiful forest. Hopefully that place doesn't burn. Incredible devastation that can happen with these fires if the land is not taken care of. Wild horses, we've heard, are very good to make sure the land doesn't burn. Of course, they've been rounded up by the government agencies and taken off the land so that they'll burn, because there's a lot of money that's in the burns these days, guys. And they don't care that it's burning our beautiful lands. They don't care that it's they don't care that the smoke itself is killing tens of thousands of people every year. They don't care. They're making money, and that's all they care about. All right, these evil materialists that are running our country. Well, not our country, but several of our states and some places around the world. All right. So, yeah, fires are really bad. So let's look at Europe. The fires in Europe are equally as bad, if not worse in some cases. I think it's like the worst they've seen for, 1,000 years.
The minister is calling the devastating wildfires ravaging parts of his country and neighboring France the most painful expression of a climate emergency. Massive flames are getting dangerously close to the cities of Bordeaux and Madrid and France says they may not be extinguished for months. Tens of thousands of people have already been forced to evacuate their homes. Meanwhile, heat remains a factor as temperatures continue to rise with no rain in sight. Derek Van Dam joins us from the CNN Weather Center. We are having this extraordinary year of heat, aren't we, in Europe? But I guess the wind's just as important at this point.
And the drought as well. I think it's important, Max, that we step back, kind of say, how did we get to this point? Well, remember, we had an unusually wet winter. So the months of January and February, we had a lot of water, a lot of rainfall from the sky. And then the taps got turned off. And then we had multiple successive heat waves impact the Iberian Peninsula and western portions of Europe. So this is the drought monitor from Copernicus. And you can see France littered with that dark shade of red near the Bordeaux region. That is the highest level of drought conditions that they monitor. Of course, we have our ongoing wildfires that we're monitoring. There are several hotspots, dozens of hotspots across this area, but we're focusing in on just west of Bordeaux and west of Madrid. This is fascinating. The French authorities here talking about pyrocumulus clouds, the own weather patterns created by the intense heat from these wildfires. And it's visible on the satellite imagery. We picked this because it really tells an important story. This is Bordeaux. This is one of the wildfires. And you can see kind of those overshooting tops. So you're a satellite looking down towards the ground. And this is kind of giving you an example of just how high these billowing plumes of smoke are. We call these pyrocumulus clouds. It is true. Sometimes when intense forest fires get so hot, they actually force the air upwards. The air particles cool, condense, create clouds, and often those can create lightning strikes that spark additional wildfires. But on top of that, it can complicate the firefighting efforts on the ground as well, because once rain falls from this thunderstorm, in essence, cloud, well, it's going to create a lot of wind as well. So it can push embers from the original fire to new additional spot fires further out along the forward flank, complicating the firefighting efforts. So does this. The winds, right? If it gusts anywhere between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, which it's forecast to do across some of these hardest hit areas, it will make it that much difficult. When we get a change in the wind direction, the forward flank changes from north to south, east to west, depending on what that wind direction is doing. And of course.
All right. So obviously, it's Europe's being punished, right? So being punished for being too liberal. And I think that's one of the things that I talked about. The consciousness does have an effect, I think, on certain areas. I've seen it for decades, right? I see where hurricanes come in and so forth. Some places, like where I lived in Madeira Beach, the hurricanes did come in. They were 100 miles off the coast and still devastated. And then that hurricane went up into North Carolina mountains and still had the same intensity, but they're still digging people out to this day, 2 years later. Crazy. So probably, a lot of people go missing. They're never found. They don't talk about it. Same thing happened. I did a show earlier today in Lahaina, right? Almost 3 years later, August 8th or so forth, I think somewhere around that time frame. Is the third year, and they still haven't completely rebuilt Lahaina. This is what these evil ones do. They come in with their direct energy weapons and devastate. And then, even though there's billions of dollars of reclamation, refund, and to help people never get it. They never get it. Billions, and they never get it. Never get the help, and they become destitute. Leave, or there's even people that are being found that have committed suicide, or are they being suicided because they're doing our investigations, because of course they have the same sheriff that was at the Las Vegas shooting that signed up for Lahaina months before Lahaina fire started, and he picked his deputies, which stopped traffic in this one area because the deputies wouldn't let them escape. So extreme evil. It's in our face. People don't seem to be able to do anything about it. They, want to say that someone that's obviously very evil and bad doesn't have a wrinkly flag on his coffin, so he's an okay, good military guy. Whatever. All right. That's why we're in the state that we're in. That's why we're going to get devastated over and over and over again. And hopefully some of us jump on some arcs, right? Or, going through the dumbs that are, not baddie dumbs. So I don't know, guys. We can push back and weaken people, but we have to work together to do it. And it just doesn't seem to be people that are of that consciousness level, unfortunately. All right. So let's look into some more of this devastation. Houthis escalate attacks on Saudi Arabia, reportedly fire ballistic missiles at oil tanker. So the Houthis in Yemen, I spent some time in Yemen in CIA, in Aden, and that's right on the area where they're restricting traffic. It comes kind of close together with Somalia, I think, on the other side. And they're trying to restrict, just like the Iranians are trying to do, in the Straits of Hormuzi. And so just have to make fun of this bullshit, right? Hormuzi. Yeah. And some are like, well, it's all fun until you get blown up. Yeah, I've been around blowing up stuff a lot. So, and I still had a good time. We joked about it afterwards. So you got to keep a sense of humor. Those of you that get too serious, you're going to attract it. You're going to attract it. So it's us happy, fun guys are going to just like laugh and play and take out the bad guys when we need to. All right, Saudi Arabia's air defense, backed by the U.S. and Western allies, continue to thwart Houthi drone attacks. Now, Europeans seem to now be getting involved because I saw where there is a Greek anti-missile battalion or whatever, squadron, whatever, and they have stopped a few missiles. So good job, Greeks. All right, Greek men, and some Spartans. All right, from Spartan lifetimes are out there, doing good work. So I think this is going to continue to pick up because this is, it's not going to go down like Graham said. Graham said it'll be over in 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. He said, all right. We'll bomb them, and some of the cities will go, and then the rest of the Arab nations will get involved, and it'll be over in a few weeks. Right? That's what Graham said. You Graham supporters, right? Unwrinkly coughing supporters. So the Houthis are carrying, and yes, I'm going to continue to push that because until you wake up or you get so pissed off that you storm out and you get out of my face, right? So, the Mullah regime wants to use the escalation to strengthen its position in the ongoing conflict with the United States. The Iranian of attacking ships and tankers in the Red Sea of Bab el-Mandeb, closing the region's second busiest waterway after the Strait of Hormuz. And Babel. When there's some like for Babel, scatter them, change their language and scatter them. Bab el-Mandeb carries around 7% of the world's energy supplies. So it looks like Iraq is somehow getting involved because they got some Houthi likers, and they're shooting some missiles from Iraq into Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi Arabians are like, stop that. Iranian government, stop your people from doing that, please. So it's like, that's the way the Arabs are. They talk a lot of shit, but they don't show up. That's why it's been a lot of American and other foreign nations that have been fighting these wars, and sometimes they show up, and when they do, you're like, yeah, you guys could probably just go back to where you were. We got this, but for some, after years of giving them munitions and training and so forth, they're still fucked up. But no, I mean, some of them are good, but it's a mess over there. In addition to blockading Saudi oil and gas exports, the Houthis are targeting the Arab kingdom's energy infrastructure. Houthis said on Monday they targeted a number of sensitive crude oil supply and transport sites linking eastern Saudi Arabia to the critical Red Sea oil export hub of Yanbu. Yanbu, man. And I don't know if that's the way they pronounce it, if they put man on the end of it, but it sounds cool. Fires, heavy smoke, and burn scars are visible at Aramco's Abqaiq facility in new satellite imagery. It's Saudi Arabia's largest crude processing plant, and there's been damage there and burn scars. I guess they're not going to admit that it happened. So we have to go look. All right, hike or hold. That's the Fed. The Federal Reserve, who we all know needs to go away. And I do shows about a lot of stuff, and everybody's like, why doesn't Trump do something about it? Why doesn't Trump do something about it? Why does Trump do something about it? Really? It's like, why don't we do something about this? Trump's his one-man show, right? He fell asleep at Graham's funeral. He was so bored. Maybe he was up late, planning strikes against Iran or something. I don't know. But he fell asleep. He got up and said, Graham, there wasn't a war that he didn't like to get involved in and blow stuff up or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but he kind of said something like that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Were there some reveals in that little talk that he did for you Graham lovers, right? I might want to look deeper at that. All right, hike or hold. The Fed meeting will surprise either way. So I say hold, and don't raise those spears until they're right up on us. Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. All right, so I think the Fed is seeing the problems. This new Fed, Walsh, is seeing, he's looking beyond the information, because usually the Fed is late to the game. They're looking at information that's old and tired. They're not looking at deeper information, like housing prices are collapsing, I think like 27% in Austin, Texas, 27% drop. And everybody said it would go up forever. This time will be different. And when you ever hear that, it's not going to be different. All right. So we have dropping home prices. That's deflation. And the largest, monetary instrument on the planet is American housing on the planet. That's right. And it's descending in value. That's deflation. So all these inflation wine ears. And speaking of wine, did you guys notice that in France, Bordeaux, there's a threat of burning going on? Come on. You got to protect that. That's the best wines in the world, Bordeaux. Oh, my God. Sacre bleu. So let's go, Frenchies. Get out there. Fight those fires. Oh, you guys don't fight. Oh, well, climate change. You knew it was coming, and there it is. You brought it, right? What you focus on, you attract. All right. So I'm attracting good wines. I've been to Bordeaux, and they have all their wines stored underground because that's the way the Vikings did it. Yeah, the Vikings are the ones that brought the wines. Vinland. So they basically have all this stuff stored underground, huge barrels. Oh, it's magnificent, magnifique. We toured there. Mahoney-Co and I, we toured that area in France, and we had a good time. All right. That's back in the day when the Intuitive Warrior came out, Lessons from a Navy SEAL on How to Increase Your Hidden Potential. And it's done really well. It's sold a lot of books, but I haven't got a lot of that money. Right? it's been stolen from me. So you write a good book and a lot of people read it, and you would think you'd get some kind of compensation for that. But Amazon and book companies, they take a lot. They take a lot. You got to sell a lot to get a little bit. And so I've sold a lot and I've gotten a little bit. Right. So a lot of you have read that. If you haven't read that, that's a good book. Still a good book 20 years later. All right. So it's timeless information. And I'm sure, and some maybe if I do have future lives here, which I don't think I'm going to, I'm done. I'm done here. At some point, I won't be doing any shows here, guys. Come on. You got to know that. And I'm going to move along, and I'm going to move to star systems or something. I don't know. Star Trekky, or, I've been told I got my own starships out there, and I'm ready to go. All right. So anyway, hike or hold. I'm just all over the place today. I'm making up for like, how long was I gone? 6 days, something. So I'm making up, and I gotta push out a lot of information and a lot of funny stuff. All right. So, all right, here we go. Should I stay or should I go now? Do. If I stay, there will be trouble. Or something like that. I don't know. So I say the Fed is going to hold, guys. And we'll probably see the stock market like it. And we'll probably see silver and gold like it, because the dollar's going to go whoop. Because the dollar's been going up, because everybody's like, oh, they're going to hike, 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 they're going to hike. There's a lot more people said that, but you get the drift, right? A lot of people said it. So they're not going to hike. And we'll know, I think, 2:30 tomorrow in the afternoon. If you see the stock market go whoop, and you see silver and gold go whoop, and you see the dollar go whoop, then that's good. If you see the stock market go whoop, that means they hiked. Run away from everything. But hold your silver. Hold. Yeah. So, and as the horses get closer, or the kings, it's always the British you're holding for. You ever notice that in those movies? Hold until you see the whites of their eyes. And the Bunker Hill, and they like blasted them. And then they blasted them a few more times, and they ran away because they ran out of ammo. And they didn't want to get bayoneted. So they did the same thing with who was that one guy, that one king, Edward the First or something, I think it was. That was my lifetime. Yeah, I was a good king, actually. But they made me look like it was bad. But he came against some Scotsmen that were good fighters. They were really good fighters. And they waited till the horses were upon them, and then they brought the spears up, but then the king's like, shoot the arrows. And the master at arms goes, but sir, we'll hit some of our men. It's the Irish. And I have Irish in me this time. Of course, I would get Irish because, and Scottish, mostly Scottish, Irish and Welsh. And so, you do something to one group, and then you got to be that group. And that's kind of the way it works. So, don't mess with the Irish. Don't mess with the Irish. That my wife Tracy was she was the Irish pirate queen in her lifetime. Yes, look that up. Irish pirate queen. That was one of Tracy's lifetimes. So, and she really identifies with that, actually, because some of the lifetimes I say, you were this and you were that. It's like, whatever. But she likes the Irish pirate queen. All right. So he will hold tomorrow against the British Empire, because the British Empire is still trying to monetarily control us. And we're going to defeat them. All right. All right. So the tapes Joe Biden spent 2 years trying to bury are finally out. So, and now we see that he really was an idiot, right, for a long time, and longer than they were letting him to be. So all these people that basically were apologists for him, the press and the Democrat Party and so forth, are they going to be held accountable? I wonder. Joe Biden's lawyers fought for more than 2 years to keep the American people from hearing that their client what their client sounded like in 2016, 2017. That was a long time ago. But wasn't he like vice president back then? Yes, right. He was an idiot all the way back then. He's always been an idiot, guys. He lies about everything to ingratiate himself and make him look bigger and more something that he's not. So he also boasted about keeping extensive personal notes from his years in the White House, remarking that officials there never knew that he had them. Right? So that's illegal. That's a felony. Stop and consider what that means. This was not a confused old man stumbling into a technical violation. This was a sitting vice president and later a private citizen telling a writer with no security clearance that the material in front of them might be classified, and then sharing it anyway, right? So in several commands, I was the security manager for the command in Guam, Forward Operating Base, in SEAL Team 6 for my squadron, and in SEAL Team 4 for the whole command. So I know about security and top secret, confidential, and how to classify them, how to lock them up, how to sign them out, and so forth. And looks like Biden basically took a few files for himself and never returned them. They should never leave the office where they're from. So Special Counsel Robert Hur can obtain these recordings during his investigation. Now, remember, he said Biden was so incompetent that a jury would not find him guilty because he's just so dumb. He's just so out of it. I beg to differ. All right. So the sitting president is so incapacitatedly stupid and not there that a jury would not convict him of being, taking information that should get him felony and put him in prison, fined and put in prison for a very long time. He's like, no, he didn't do anything about it. He just told us, yeah, he's an idiot. But that's where, and that was it. There's got to be accountability for that at some point, right? All right. So his February 2024 report concluded that Biden willfully retained classified materials and read classified notebook entries to Zwanitzer nearly verbatim on at least 3 occasions. So that was his author because Joe Biden can't write, right? He's stupid. He was never intelligent enough. He barely made it through law school, although he said he was like top of his class. And we find out, no, you barely made it through there. And then that bridge that got hit by that one ship and it dumped that bridge, it blew up and dumped that bridge in Baltimore or wherever it was. And he's like, I used to ride the train on that. Well, there's no train ever was on that bridge. So the guy's just full of it on everything. It's unbelievable. The House Judiciary Committee, which posted several of the clips, these are clips where we're able to see that this guy was out of it, right? So these are being revealed. They're hearing them. And you know what's going to happen? The D.C. Circuit rejected Biden's emergency bid in a 2-1 ruling on July 21st. Do you know that there's 1,000 lawyers that have stepped down from Washington, D.C.? 1,000 from Washington, D.C. The Trump administration is cleaning house, and these guys are just like running for the hills. Right? So these guys are in trouble. Biden's team quickly folded rather than press on because it's basically there's nowhere else to run and hide because we pushed on this, guys. We found people that will support pushing back on this. And this is the key. We, the people, have to push back. We have to work together in large enough groups that makes an impression on those that push back too, but don't have any support. So we're supporting the people that have been at the bit to go forward. So continue to do it, guys. It makes a difference. All right, two men to two different standards of justice. Embrace them too, I guess, for being stupid. They do not merely embarrass Joe Biden, they indict the institutions that protected him, the press, the Democrat Party, and everyone that was around Joe Biden, all right? His wife, everyone. His vice president, Kamala, she was too stupid to know anyway, too, but anyway. And both of those people are gone. That's not Kamala, and that's no Joe Biden. We know that. All right. I think a Filipino plays, Filipino dude plays Warren. So anyway, we're going to see a lot of this stuff come forward as we move on. It's pathetic. How do we ever get here? Right. Where do we go from here now that all of the children have grown up? Daughter of man in 72 Biden crash seeks apology from widowed senator. All right. Newark resident Pamela Hamill wants a public apology from vice president candidate U.S. Senator Joseph Biden. So this is obviously a while back. What's the date on this? This was October 20th, 2008. But they still kept playing the bullshit. One of the stories is that, he flipped the vehicle and they tested him. He wasn't drinking. He never had prison time, nothing like that. But Biden would say when he was talking about it that he was drunk. Instead of eating his lunch, he drank his lunch, he would say. They found out about it, the family, and they're like, apologies, stop that. But he continued to do it. This guy got away with so much. It's just pathetic. Pathetic. So pathetic. It's copacetic. I got all the music in my head. It's like crazy. All right. Ma'am Donnie. Speaking of election fraud. Ma'am Donnie, election bombshell. Boom. More fraudulent votes cast than margin of Ma'am Donnie's victory, says election auditor. So remember when I said that stop doing the recounts because all you're doing is recount of the fraud. You got to go find the fraud. And this is what has happened here. Someone has gone out and found the fraud woman that's a New Yorker. And she said we all know that Ma'am Donnie didn't win. So I was like, well, that's unfortunate. So what have you done about that? So someone has actually gone out and done some investigatory work. Very good. So a prominent election integrity activist has uncovered bombshell evidence suggesting, because we can't. So look right here. There's fraud. There's fraud here. There's fraud there. There's fraud over there. Fraud back there. Fraud under here. Fraud. Ma'am Donnie's like he's got it in his pockets. Just pull his pockets out. Look, there's fraud. It's everywhere. No, you can't say that. Suggesting. All right. Because we can't say for sure. Otherwise, they'll just discount it. Oh, you're just like, you're a conspiracy theorist, aren't you? No, I have actual proof. Where did you come from, that proof? Who gave you that proof? So it's going to be like that, guys. They're going to just drag this on. It's so pathetic. copacetic. Marty Hornick, remember that? Marley Hornick, the founder of RealAmerica.vote and New York Citizens Audit. Marley, you better have a bodyguard. Has suggested that the 2025 election included large numbers of unqualified or non-existent voters. Oh, where have we heard that before? Yeah. Finally, somebody's like getting to the bottom of this. I actually don't know whether Mamdani won the mayoral race, and I'm not here to say that he didn't, Hornick said smartly during a July 22 interview on New York radio stations WABC's Sid and Friends in the Morning. I listen to it all the time. I've never heard of it. The problem we uncovered is that the New York City and the New York State boards of elections are corrupt. I mean, have no idea if Mamdani won the mayoral election either. How is that possible? We don't even know. But how about all this fraud? We don't know. Well, look, here's this fraud, here's this fraud, here's this fraud. We don't know. Okay. So I think we need to pick somebody that might have a little brain cell, just a little one, because that's all we need. And that's where the rubber meets the road here. After examining 1 million of the total 2.2 million voters who participated in the election, so she only examined 1 million. So what would happen if she in the other 1.2 million? So her organization discovered that 7% were non-existent in records, 6% had fake social security numbers, and 10% didn't even live in New York City. In total, identified 230,000 illegal votes, which exceeded Mamdani's 200,000 vote margin of victory, even over for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who Trump recommended and supported, ran as an independent. This was despite needing to still do the remaining 1.2 million. So I guarantee you she's going to get about half a million legal guys. About half a million. Wow. That's way over. So this is how we move. This is how we do it. So if we don't start for the fraud, then we're going to find the election was stolen or not. And I guess they don't want me to do this because it's starting to restrict me again. I'm revealing stuff you don't like. So it is getting to that point where we're about ready to buzzsaw through these people. Get the buzzsaw running. It's like, okay, start walking towards the buzzsaw now. No. Yes, because you were going to do that to us. And then we're going to survive, and we're not going to have a world that's going to flip on its axis and flip us off. So because the world will be like, oh, you guys decided to be good this time? I won't have to destroy you. All right. I don't know. That's kind of the way I see it. But I think that, as we move forward, we're going to see a lot more of this fraud, a lot more of these people that are quite evil. And, and that's part of our human experience here, I guess, revealing that these guys are bad. And by doing that, we, destroy them and take them down. I think that's a good thing. All right. So let's look at a little bit of a video. This guy shared this with me. This is kind of like what we're going through right now. So I'm going to share a little teaser. It's this guy that makes these videos, Vimeo.
Sort of think in that old-fashioned way, which is I don't accept the rules that you've put on me. I don't accept the ideology that you claim we all need to bow down to. I think like an American.
The task of President Trump and his team is mighty, and we may not get it all right because this has never really been done before, is to right the ship.
Still don't think that the public quite understands the genius that they're working with the man, and he's just on another level.
His mindset, he's just on another level, and he is. But, a lot of people don't seem to be getting that. They want to diss him. It's TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, all over the place. And now we have, what is it? Israel derangement syndrome, IDS. So we have Tucker Carlson with IDS, Israel derangement syndrome. And that leads to, he was once a Trump supporter, and now he's got IDS and TDS, right? So I guess one of them has to go with the other. One of these things is not like the other unless you're Tucker Carlson. They're both like the other, right? So it's crazy out there. Candace Owens, lots of people that were Trump supporters and now have IDS and TDS. It's getting out of control, but there are enough of us out there that are commanders that are going to keep the ship, moving. We'll motivate everybody to get on the cannons and blow away the baddies. All right, buzzsaw them, blow them away with the cannons. So we have to work together. If we don't work together, guys, we don't win. So conspiring together. All right. So I think that I believe very strongly that we're winning, and we're winning big. All right. And people that don't see certain things that I with me or rest of us. Okay. There's enough of us that are working together to this issue. Are these types of clothes, you don't drink this kind of wine, Bordeaux's, and you don't eat meat, you eat vegetables. I don't care. I really don't care. All right. As long as we work together and we survive together and we play together, laugh together, cry together, and win, always win. Because I'm a winner. I don't like. I just don't lose. Right? So. Even when I'm losing, I'm still winning. All right. All right, guys. Lots of love to you. Still operations, most far force in the universe. Like that, they will keep going in fear and anger. I'll go there, even if you still support he who must not be named. So I don't care. All right. Mitch McConnell, I think he still has a few more days. I saw where he's been released. They released the beast. Glitch Mitch is out there somewhere, and I think he might trip on about August 2nd and have another accident he won't recover from, because that'll be at the point where somebody can replace him or somebody doesn't replace him. I don't know. It's not going to matter because we're not going to do the election anyway. So this silliness about the, I think they're just holding back from the Save America Act. They're like, hold. And at some point, they'll, shoot when the enemies, can see the whites of their eyes. Or, the horses are almost right upon them. And Mel Gibson will go, raise, and then they raise them up and the horses go down and they win that moment. And then shoot them with the arrows. And it's not going to work that way. All right. Because I'm the king on this side now. So, all right. Yeah, I'm all over the map today. So anyway, it's fun. All right, lots of love. Stay in the love vibration, and I will see you guys next time.
Restored Republic via GCR. Judy note. The age of economic slavery was over. The country has wiped out its financial burdens and broken free from the chains of economic control. The fraudulent economic structure in place since the 1800s no longer holds power. The corporate and banking matrix faces collapse under the force of populist determination. This development marked the end of an era of managed decline and economic bondage. The house was now paid for and America stood officially free of debt. Another huge problem Trump and the Global Alliance faced and were now overcoming had to do with maintaining health of the world population. The deep state long had control over the people of the world's declining health so they could have control over them. B. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. Monday, July 27, 2026 breaking, Trump says Obama guilty of treason. Leader of the gang, Barack Hussein Obama. He's guilty. This was treason. We have all the documents. Biden, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, the whole group was there. July 27, 2026, the gold-backed currency BRICS launched. The dollar is dead. 847 trillion in fraudulent debt erased. The global financial reset is live. On July 26, 2026, 8:47 UTC, India declared that the BRICS unity currency was supported by 22,847 metric tons of gold. Operation Code, Operation Currency Liberation 0726. The activation, BRICS nations complete final gold audit. Holdings verified by all 209 countries. Total, 22,847 metric tons of pure gold. The biggest gold reserve ever assembled. The deep state's fiat currency system is over. The fall, dollar fell 47% in 72 hours. BlackRock and Vanguard are both getting sold at the same time. The stock market is going down the tubes. This is the financial apocalypse that deep state tried to stop. The new system, BRICS unity currency, is now world standard. 1 unit equals precisely 1 gram of gold. No inflation. No manipulation. No central bank. Trump on July 24 authorized the U.S. to transition to gold standard. Treasury is turning $4.2 trillion of assets into physical gold. America is moving into the new system. The operation codes, Operation Currency Liberation 0726 equals BRICS launch, Operation Dollar Collapse imminent equals currency death, Operation Gold Standard activation equals new system protocol, 22,847 metric tons equals gold verification code 0847 UTC equals activation timestamp. The timelines: July 22, BRICS completes gold audit, fact check July 24, Trump approves gold standard, approved July 26, unity currency, NOW July 27, dollar officially abandoned, imminent July 28, global financial reset, locked in. So what does this mean? Tier 4B holders become billionaires instantly. Currency revaluation rates start. The wealth transfer is underway. The deep state's 100-year control is broken. The old banking families are done. Their fiat money is useless. Their debt is cancelled. They are powerless. The witness, one Fed economist, went dark. She has internal memos. She has audit reports in gold. She has proof that the Fed knew about BRICS 18 months ago and did nothing. She's under protective custody. Her testimony will kill the Fed. Operation Currency Liberation 0726 equals activated BRICS unity currency equals live dollar system equals dead gulch standard equals engaged. When your bank account is updated with the new currency, you'll know it's real. The old system is over. Prosperity is the new age. Global Reset, Monday, July 27, 2026. While corporate media anchors label these events as isolated software glitches or routine maintenance, the physical reality across global markets confirms the exact operational shifts we outlined. Nizar and Jazar on Telegram. The commercial banking shutdowns are live over the last 48 hours. Major international banking networks and payment clearing hubs across multiple regions experienced sudden, synchronized processing freezes. ATM networks and digital mobile banking apps went dark simultaneously. Why? Because the legacy central banking software rejected unbacked fiat routing packets as the ISO 20022 quantum verification filters locked into place. Aviation and logistics network overrides major transport and supply chain logistics grids reported sudden communication drop-offs and system reboots. These are the exact tactical corridors where the old maritime logistics tracking codes are being scrubbed and replaced by autonomous sovereign verification nodes under alliance oversight. The media silence on corporate failures. Notice how quickly the mainstream financial networks glossed over the massive liquidity clearing anomalies at primary commercial institutions. They are under strict administrative gag orders because the old balance sheets cannot reconcile physical asset backing ratios. The transition from theory into physical reality is no longer a forward projection. It is unfolding in real time across every public ledger, banking terminal, and communication grid on Earth. Look at the public error screens. Read between the lines of the corporate reports. The physical proof is right in front of you. Stay sharp. Stay encrypted. The restoration is moving fast. Mass arrests. Monday, July 27, 2026. Bombshell. 300,000 federal indictments. The swamp's collapse is imminent. The biggest corruption takedown in U.S. history is happening now. 300,000 federal indictments. The very core of the swamp is crumbling. Politicians, judges, CEOs, Hollywood elites, exposed. Child exploitation, human trafficking, treason, every crime imaginable. The list is astounding, and it's only the beginning. This isn't just another scandal. This is a full-scale purge. Gitmo is preparing for the flood. Planes are on standby. The deep state's worst nightmares are coming true. The swamp tried to hide it, sealed indictments, secret trials, media blackouts, but patriots fought back. The numbers skyrocketed, from 35,000 to 60,000. Now 300,000. A tidal wave of justice that can't be stopped. Gitmo cells are filling fast. The elite's crimes, especially those targeting children, are the darkest stains on this nation. High-ranking officials, both Democrat and Republican, exposed as predators, pedophiles, traffickers, Satanists. All of them. They thought they were untouchable. They thought their secrets would stay buried. They were wrong. Massive resignations, sudden retirements, desperate media distractions, they're running scared. But there's nowhere left to hide. The news tightens daily. Gitmo is waiting. The storm isn't coming. It's here. Trust the plan. Justice is being served. The swamp is draining, and it's glorious. That investigators have tracked him down. The latest tranche of Epstein files, straight from the DOJ, just dropped a bombshell that the mainstream is under orders to cover up. Evidence that makes the official narrative crumble. What we think we know. This of twos. July 27, 2026, Monday, July 27, 2026. FBI nabs another $547 million Medicare fraudster. Mastermind behind a massive scheme using fake genetic cancer tests, bribes to doctors, and kickbacks, swindling over $500 million from American taxpayers. 16 bank accounts, labs in Houston, Florida, Atlanta. Fled in 2022 with a fake Mexican passport. Arrested in the Middle East after just weeks on the new FBI Most Wanted fraudster list. Kash Patel's team is hunting these crooks down globally and bringing them to justice. No more stealing from seniors and taxpayers. This is what accountability looks like. Monday, July 27, 2026. Fox News. Every state didn't stop counting during the 2020 election around the same time because it was a coincidence. They all stopped counting because they were committing fraud to steal the 2020 election. Who gave the order to stop the count? They gaslit and lied to the American people for years, and once again, we were right, and the evidence proves it. Monday, July 27, 2026. Breaking special report. Donald Trump wields secret weapon against London and Iran, the IRGC death cult and Trump's nuclear renaissance. Monday, July 27, 2026. Explosive report. Thune's Reno plot just got shut down. Mike Lee blocks Senate recess to force Save America Act. Monday, July 27, 2026. Bombshell alert. The director of the Central Intelligence Agency, John Ratcliffe, Barack Hussein Obama said, "I want this done." Monday, July 27, 2026. Bombshell. Arrest Dr. Fauci. "We've got the emails, please delete this email after you read it." Rand Paul exposes Fauci's lies under oath. The smoking gun is here. Monday, July 27, 2026. Operation Skywatch ignited. Trump and RFK Jr. launch global crackdown on chemtrails, arrests imminent. This is Nuremberg 2.0, and it's happening now. Monday, July 27, 2026. Bombshell IRS alert. Most seniors haven't heard about this new tax rule, a big mistake that could cost you thousands in 2026. Monday, July 27, 2026, Intel report, Tier 1 to 5 structure exposed, the invisible engine behind the global currency reset, GCR 2026. Monday, July 27, 2026 explosive report. The Golden Eagles have landed, America is officially debt-free. Donald Trump's symbolic gift to the nation signals total financial liberation from the globalist. A monumental shift is unfolding at the heart of the United States as a powerful symbol takes its place on the gates of the White House. The Golden Eagle emblem now stands as a declaration that America has achieved total financial liberation. This move carries deep historical weight rooted in post-World War II American traditions of resilience and independence. In the years following the war, returning soldiers and families who fully paid off their mortgages would mount a Golden Eagle on their homes. This badge of honor publicly announced that the household stood free from debt, the house paid for, and the family liberated from bank obligations. It served as a visible statement of absolute freedom. Donald Trump has now placed this exact emblem upon the White House itself. The gesture delivers a clear and powerful message to the nation and the world: America is debt-free. The placement of the Golden Eagle signals that the country has wiped out its financial burdens and broken free from the chains of economic control. For generations the American people labored under the weight of an artificial national debt system engineered by central banking cartels. This multi-trillion-dollar narrative functioned as a tool of control designed to siphon wealth from the working class. Legal principles establish that any obligation built upon systemic deception stands null and void from the beginning. Fraud vitiates everything. By installing the Golden Eagle, the administration declares that the fraudulent economic structure no longer holds power. The debt illusion has been shattered. The corporate and banking matrix faces collapse under the force of populist determination. This development marks the end of an era of managed decline and economic bondage. The house is paid for and America stands officially free. The freedom symbol on the executive mansion acts as a beacon of hope, confirming a high-velocity strategy continues behind the scenes to restore national sovereignty. Wall Street interests and global elites confront their shattered matrix. This is only the beginning of a larger process that returns power and prosperity to the people. The decree has been signed. The age of economic slavery is over. The truth has awakened, the chains are broken, and the best is yet to come. Monday, July 27, 2026. Donald Trump says states need to embrace data centers. You have to convince your community how great these things are. You're going to make a tremendous amount of money. You're going to reduce taxes, your community and your state's going to become rich, and there's very little disruption. And again, if you don't take all that money, somebody else is going to take it. You might as well do it yourself. Okay, surprisingly enough, I have found some evidence for data centers actually lowering taxes for some communities. This happened in Loudoun County, Virginia in Data Center Alley. Data centers now generate a very large share of the county's property tax revenue, hundreds of millions to nearly $1 billion annually. This has allowed the county to lower the residential real property tax rate every year for roughly a decade. Loudoun has one of the lowest rates in Northern Virginia. And Monday, July 27, 2026, what is the greatest threat to the United States? Mass Muslim migration, funded and pushed by radical left oligarchs who hate our Christian roots and everything America stands for. Why? Because at some point when they're forced with the choice to join radical Islam or be executed, they won't hesitate to join and hunt down your Christian family members in the streets and execute them. Many of these liberals are already at the tipping point psychologically. All it will take is one taste of blood, for their switch to flip. These are future foot soldiers for radical Islam being groomed to murder us all when the time is right. Monday, July 27, 2026. Marco Rubio says Iran secretly doubled production on building long-range rockets, short-range missiles and drones. Their plan was to have so many stockpiled they would use them as defense while building nuclear weapons. What you need to all understand is Iran has spent the better part of 20 years not just sponsoring terrorism, but building long-range rockets, short-range missiles, and drones. And they were intending to build them a lot more. They were intending to double their stockpile of the stuff you're seeing them use now. They were going to double that. And they were going to use that and hide behind that to say, we're untouchable. We can now do a nuclear weapon and you guys can't touch us or we'll overwhelm your air defenses, which is why the president had to address this threat. And he did, and he should have. I found reporting that confirms all these claims. Iran was significantly accelerating production of these weapons. They planned to use them as a shield to overwhelm airstrikes. These would deter strikes while they worked on their nuclear program. Muslims with nuclear weapons is going to be catastrophic for anyone who isn't Muslim. Monday, July 27, 2026. The Council of Nicaea, the day they snipped your soul out of history. In 325 AD, a bunch of men got together under the leadership of the Roman Emperor Constantine to decide what you were allowed to believe. That was the Nicaea Council. It was not a spiritual meeting. It was a political meeting. They wanted to unify a broken empire by establishing one state-sanctioned religion. To do so, they had to prune the existing sacred texts, excising everything that empowered the individual and replacing it with a system of external control. They didn't just compile the Bible, they took your divinity out of it. The biggest cut was the concept of reincarnation. Early Christian sects and the Gnostics believed that the soul is eternal and has many journeys before it can reach enlightenment. This knowledge made the population uncontrollable through fear. If you know you are blessed with infinite lives, you don't fear the eternal damnation of one life. The council replaced reincarnation with the one life, one judgment doctrine, creating a spiritual bottleneck that forced the masses to depend on the church for salvation. They made a cosmic law into a religious subscription service. They also suppressed the Gnostic Gospels, including the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. The texts taught that the kingdom of heaven is within you, a state of consciousness. They said that Christ was a level of awareness that any person could achieve, not a single deity to be worshipped from afar. These texts they labeled heresy, and in this way they effectively unplugged humanity from its own internal guidance system. All had to look to a central authority, the Church, to speak to the divine for them. The Alliance has recently obtained the original, unedited scrolls from the vaults beneath the Vatican and the caves of the Dead Sea. These lost books contain the technical manuals for spiritual ascension and the true history of the soul of man. These texts will be the great disclosure, revealing the 1,700-year-old fraud that has kept humanity in spiritual infancy. The Word of God is being brought back to its original frequency, and the council that tried to lock your soul into a book is being dissolved. The truth isn't in the ink, it's in your DNA. Code, Nicaea 325, Gnostic suppression / reincarnation delete / biblical edit. They told you were a sinner in need of an intermediary. They lied to conceal that you are a sovereign spark of the Creator. The book is opening. The soul is liberated. The greatest story ever told was the one they tried to kill. But the author is back and the ending is being rewritten. Monday, July 27, 2026. Bombshell, arrest Dr. Fauci. We've got the emails, please delete this email after you read it. Rand Paul exposes Fauci's lies under oath. The smoking gun is here. 107. Bombshell, emails prove Fauci lied under oath. Please delete this after you read it. He wrote in 2020. Rand Paul demands answers. The cover-up is over. America demands Fauci's arrest. For years, Dr. Anthony Fauci strutted as the self-proclaimed voice of science. He silenced dissent, mocked critics and demanded blind obedience. America was ruled by one unelected bureaucrat who thrived on fear. Now the mask has shattered. Documents are out. Fauci's empire of lies collapses under his own words. Please delete this email after you read it. Dr. Anthony Fauci, February 2020. The man who swore under oath he never deleted a record ordered exactly that. This is not science. This is a cover-up of historic proportions. Sworn testimony is sacred, yet Fauci treated it as deception. He denied under oath ever deleting official records, obstructing FOIA releases or deleting emails tied to the Wuhan lab. Each denial is proven false. Emails confirm he ordered deletions from February 2020. This is perjury, a federal crime and a deliberate lie to Congress punishable by prison. The Senate committee under Chairman Rand Paul holds the smoking gun. February 2, 2020, Fauci to Collins, please delete this email after you read it. July 20, 2020, Fauci to NIH staff, I do not want to engage anymore with this nonsense. And so, please delete this email after you read it. 2 deliberate attempts to erase the record. Thanks to Rand Paul's relentless pursuit, America holds the receipts. The call is clear, arrest Dr. Anthony Fauci. It is time for handcuffs. History will remember him as the criminal who betrayed his country and got caught. Monday, July 27, 2026. The deep state tried to infiltrate VP Vance's security detail. Trump's team caught them. This is how the Patriots are dismantling the swamp. Mr. Poole final chapter. On July 23, 2026, the Secret Service announced an investigation into a deep state operative embedded inside their agency. A Secret Service agent assigned to Vice President J.D. Vance's protective detail was caught leaking classified information. But Vance and Trump were ready. The agent, Thomas Escato, is a Biden holdover, a deep state mole planted inside the Trump administration's security apparatus. His mission was simple: gather intelligence on Vance's movements and feed it to deep state operatives planning to destabilize the administration. But Vance saw it coming. VP Vance, operating at the highest strategic level, deliberately allowed Escato to believe his cover was intact. Vance's team fed him false information while Trump's military intelligence monitored every communication, every meeting, every betrayal. This was a sting operation. When Escato leaked classified information to undercover operatives, Trump's team had everything documented. Project Veritas released the video footage. The deep state's playbook was exposed. Now the investigation is criminal. Escato faces federal charges. But this is just the beginning. The investigation will reveal an entire network of deep state operatives embedded throughout government agencies. Vance is orchestrating the exposure. The VP's strategic genius allowed him to identify the mole, document the betrayal, and set the trap. Every deep state operative who thought they could infiltrate the Trump administration is now being identified and removed. This is Trump's strategy in action. Let the enemy reveal themselves. Document their crimes. Then strike. The arrests are being prepared. The military tribunals are being scheduled. The deep state's final stronghold inside the federal government is being dismantled. Vance is winning. Trump is winning. The patriots are in control. The deep state thought they could outsmart the Trump administration. They were catastrophically wrong. Every move they make is being tracked. Every operative they deploy is being identified. Every plan they execute is being documented. Vance's intelligence network is the most sophisticated operation ever assembled. Trump's military team is executing with precision. The swamp is being drained one traitor at a time. Justice is coming. The swamp is being drained. The awakening accelerates. Share this everywhere. The patriots are winning. Code: Operation Serpent Nest /Deep State Exposed /Vance Victorious /Trump and Control /Patriots Winning. Some of the most recent arrests surrounded U.S. university presidents and federal judges. Evidently the deep state has been using federal agency networks to coordinate a massive coup in an attempt to overthrow the American government. This coup against Trump and the American people was recently discovered by Trump's intelligence team. The basis of the coup is to conduct illegal bioweapon research at U.S. universities in partnership with foreign governments. The bioweapons would be sprayed on the people to reduce the population. They found 312 federal employees ran the $47 million per year operation that funded deep state black operations across multiple federal agencies. Every single federal agency had a chief diversity officer who reported to a shadow network operating inside the Department of Justice. Involved were 15 university presidents, 47 federal contractors, 3 members of Congress and 8 judges who were coordinating with foreign operatives to develop biological weapons on American soil. The money flowed through shell organizations, universities and nonprofits. SWIFT transfer records proved $8.3 billion in fraudulent research grants went to certain U.S. universities. Trump's global military alliance has already arrested 312 federal employees in connection with the coup. The second wave would target university presidents and contractors. The third wave of arrests would be coming for Congress and the judiciary. Additionally, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner last week, Trump hinted at arrests in a $2.7 billion voter fraud operation that has been running for the last 4 years. Ken Paxton was coordinating treasonous activities with 47 Texas state officials, 3 federal judges, and 12 university administrators. Together, they created a sophisticated voter registration scheme that altered election results in 3 critical swing states. On Saturday morning, July 25, 2026, military intelligence conducted a raid across Texas, Washington, D.C., and 3 other locations. While arresting 47 officials, they seized servers, SWIFT transfer records and encrypted communications. The operation was believed funded through shell companies in the Cayman Islands and Cyprus. Military tribunals on those involved in the coup would begin with live broadcasts on Saturday, August 1, 2026. Tribunals on the voter fraud cases were set to begin Saturday, 15th of August, 2026. Trump was preparing a 48-hour national address to discuss the above and other critical issues. When he spoke, The emergency broadcast system would activate on the new Starlink satellite network by way of a blackout of all mass media communication devices, TV, radio, internet. This blackout and national address was coming very soon, a power shift to military control, and opening the door to the awakening. On Saturday 1st of August, 2026, when the light turned back on, nothing would ever be the same. On Sunday, July 26, 2026, around 6:50 a.m. the EBS went off in Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, New York City, Philadelphia, and Seattle. Sunday, July 26, 2026, military intel bombshell, FISA equals start, the unveiling of the deep state's 16-year plan to destroy America, b. what we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. Sunday, July 26, 2026, Alberta, Canada, time to end this bullshot of lies. Song, Men and Women in De facto Alberta, time to end this bullshot of lies. On July 4, 2026, Trump accepted a $400 million Qatari-donated Boeing 747-8 as his temporary Air Force One. Within days, Trump's security team discovered that the aircraft contained sophisticated surveillance and weapons targeting backdoors embedded in its self-defense systems. They also found that traitors inside the CIA, FBI and State Department had coordinated with Qatar in the assassination plot. Military tribunals were being prepared. Trump had turned their assassination weapon into a trap that exposed their entire network. Justice is coming. Patriots are in control. Global currency reset. Sunday, July 26, 2026. The big day is almost here. Over the next 24 to 48 hours, we should see the final activation steps. Official notifications may arrive at any time, signaling the start of the new financial era. Global activation. The reset will go live very soon. Central banks and financial leaders worldwide will jointly confirm the switch, effectively launching the new quantum-secured monetary system. Wallet rollout. We will be guided on how to access the QFS wallet. I'll be among the first to log in and see my new digital assets. The process will likely involve encrypted app updates or official messages, but it will be straightforward thanks to all the prep work. Financial reset. Expect to see new currency rates posted in your wallet. Old debts may be adjusted or cancelled. All these changes will be enforced by the blockchain for full transparency. Every transaction and update will be viewable on the ledger. Smooth transition. All prior demonstrations have been successful. In fact, a recent pilot showed a completely offline quantum-safe digital currency transfer working flawlessly. With our security protocols and support teams ready, we anticipate a seamless shift with minimal delays or glitches. I am fully confident in the plan. Everything is in place for a smooth transition to the QFS. Keep your notifications on. We're just hours away from a revolutionary change in global finance. Sunday, July 26, 2026. The financial system knows. A chief central bank auditor just sent us his resignation letter. Read on. To the Board of Governors, Federal Reserve System. Effective immediately, I resign. I have spent 22 years in international monetary auditing. I have tracked trillions in capital flows across 45 central banks. I am writing this because I cannot carry the weight of what I know for one more day. In 2007, I was invited to a closed-door briefing at a subterranean facility in Basel. The briefing was titled, The Quantum Ledger and Sovereign Debt Nullification. The lead architect showed us internal ledger synchronization data tested between 2004 and 2007, asset-backed digital settlement, instantaneous, global scale, intermediary banks, centralized fiat, completely obsolete, inflationary printing cycles, eliminated permanently, wealth distribution, directly secured by tangible natural resources. An entire global economy. Stable, transparent, and completely free of debt slavery. No central bank interest traps, no engineered recessions, no artificial currency devaluations. We saw the live ledger bypass all traditional banking rails. Then we were told, this architecture is classified under emergency national security decrees. Any attempt to integrate, expose, or implement decentralized asset backing will result in immediate termination, asset forfeiture, and charges of treason. You are bound by permanent secrecy. We went back to our desks. We went back to signing off on currency printing that systematically robbed the global working class. I went back to level 4. That's where we audit fiat liquidity injections. Level 4. I went back to approving interest rate hikes that foreclosed on millions of family homes. I went back to telling the public, inflation is an unavoidable economic cycle caused by market forces. There was no natural cycle. There was an intentional, mathematical wealth extraction machine designed to keep humanity in perpetual debt. Since 2007, I have personally verified trillions in fiat debasement. Economic hardship is a manufactured cage. At least 90% of global poverty and debt could have been dissolved 2 decades ago using the quantum ledger system. Instead, I watched housing become unaffordable. I watched entire generations locked out of ownership. I watched sovereign nations collapse into bankruptcy while elite cartels consolidated every global asset. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am asking for this letter to reach every human being who has worked 60 hours a week only to watch their savings evaporate to inflation. That struggle is a lie. There is a financial architecture that rewards real value and eliminates central bank robbery. It exists. It works. The Basel tests proved it works. Your government knows. The central bankers know. They chose absolute financial control over your sovereignty. I chose my career and security over your freedom. I will not choose it one more day. To the billions trapped in debt slavery, I am sorry I was a coward. I am sorry I chose silence. My obedience kept the financial chains locked around your future. The silence ends today. Name withheld. Senior central bank auditor. 22 years. He watched the world drown in manufactured debt while true financial freedom sat in a secure ledger. He stayed silent. He is not silent anymore. Neither are we. G. The Transition, Sunday, July 26, 2026, 6:50 a.m. MST alert. The EBS has gone off in the USA, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, New York City, Philadelphia, Seattle. Something big is coming. Martial law on Telegram. H. Sunday, July 26, 2026. Trump victory. Strait of Hormuz opens after ceasefire as global alliance crushes cabal and prepares EBS activation. Intel 107. The Strait of Hormuz is now fully open. Iran's deputy foreign minister declared the critical waterway secure, ready for safe passage of vessels. Reopening it was President Donald J. Trump's key demand in the ceasefire, marking a massive win against deep state warmongers pushing for endless conflict. The truce remains fragile with some early disputes over Lebanon, but Vice President J.D. Vance leads negotiations confidently. He called the initial choppiness normal in any ceasefire. Lasting peace talks begin this weekend in Pakistan. Patriots, the storm is here and intensifying. With the U.S. corporation dissolved, President Trump restored American sovereignty under the original Constitution. As commander of the global military alliance, he authorized the final takedown of the satanic deep state cabal worldwide. Sunday, July 26, 2026. Blackout is coming. EBS live on Telegram. The final phase is in motion. Power grids are being shifted to military control. When the lights go out, IT will not be darkness. IT will be the moment the truth emerges. Stay calm. Stay ready. Stay with me. The silence you will hear is not fear, it is freedom loading. Communication lines will fall quiet, but the signal will still exist. Those who are awake will know where to listen. Do not disconnect. Do not run. This is the point where history splits in two. One world ends, another begins. The blackout is the awakening. When the lights return, nothing will ever be the same. Sunday, July 26, 2026. Commercial banking shutdowns live. Field telemetry and social proof. Real-world systems in reboot. While corporate media anchors label these events as isolated software glitches or routine maintenance, the physical reality across global markets confirms the exact operational shifts we outlined. The commercial banking shutdowns are live over the last 48 hours. Major international banking networks and payment clearing hubs across multiple regions experienced sudden, synchronized processing freezes. ATM networks and digital mobile banking apps went dark simultaneously. Why? Because the legacy central banking software rejected unbacked fiat routing packets as the ISO 20022 quantum verification filters locked into place. Aviation and logistics network overrides major transport and supply chain logistics grids reported sudden communication drop-offs and system reboots. These are the exact tactical corridors where the old maritime logistics tracking codes are being scrubbed and replaced by autonomous sovereign verification nodes under alliance oversight. The media silence on corporate failures. Notice how quickly the mainstream financial networks glossed over the massive liquidity clearing anomalies at primary commercial institutions. They are under strict administrative gag orders because the old balance sheets cannot reconcile physical asset backing ratios. The transition from theory into physical reality is no longer a forward projection. It is unfolding in real time across every public ledger, banking terminal, and communication grid on Earth. Look at the public error screens. Read between the lines of the corporate reports. The physical proof is right in front of you. Stay sharp. Stay encrypted. The restoration is moving fast. Sunday, July 26, 2026. Marco Rubio's newly released report alleges that Communist Cuba has long-standing ties to far-left activist networks in the United States and warns of planned nationwide actions targeting U.S. military bases and ICE facilities. The report comes as authorities investigate the recent attack outside a federal building in Manhattan, where an Army veteran was arrested after allegedly setting fires and carrying multiple weapons, including axes, knives, machetes, pellet guns, and a manifesto. Sunday, July 26, 2026. Representative Lisa McClain, the Biden-Harris terrorist administration spent $66 billion on illegal aliens just in 2023 and only $3 billion on homeless veterans. That's more than $1 trillion over 4 years. In other words, you've been deceived, robbed, extorted, blackmailed, and betrayed. Real awakening. Sunday, July 26, 2026, one of the most corrupt scams in American history. Since the mid-80s, a Democrat-appointed federal judge in New Jersey entered a consent decree that allowed Democrats to cheat, lie, and steal elections, including overthrowing the U.S. government in 2020. Representative Harriet Hagman. A Democrat-appointed federal judge entered a consent decree that banned Republicans from serving as poll watchers. So, from the mid-80s until 2020, Republicans were not allowed to serve as poll watchers in national elections. The order had to be renewed by Democrats every 5 to 8 years. It remained in effect until the judge dropped dead and was ultimately overturned by an Obama-appointed judge, who ruled that continuing the decree was unconstitutional. In other words, the Republican losers in the Republican Party just sat on their asses and took shit, as they always do. Think about that for a whole minute. 10 Days of Darkness on Telegram. Sunday, July 26, 2026, breaking special report. Trump stops the stop. Trump kills Obama's engine shutdown rule. Start-stop system dead. Sunday, July 26, 2026, red alert. EPA Chief Lee Zeldin confirms stratospheric chemical spraying, sulfur dioxide into the sky. Health risks are real. What used to be called conspiracy is now called official policy. Sunday, July 26, 2026, boom. Barack Obama, Larry Sinclair and a Tale of Cocaine. Europe. Sunday, July 26, 2026. Hillary Clinton's email to Pizza Man John Podesta confirms the Kenyan administration, Barack Obama plus Hillary Clinton plus Saudi Arabia plus Qatar founded ISIS. Julian Assange, ISIS is funded by Saudi Arabia and Qatar. This is the most significant email in the whole collection. The government of Saudi and the government of Qatar that has been funding ISIS. Under Hillary Clinton and Clinton emails revealed. The largest ever arms deals in the world was made in Saudi Arabia, more than $80 billion. In fact, during her tenure as Secretary of State, total arms exports from the United States in terms of the dollar value doubled. Sunday, July 26, 2026. Deep State in full panic as insider unleashes bombshells on staged shootings, burn bag secrets, and Obama's CIA-created fraud as Trump's tribunals loom. In a riveting private exchange sending shockwaves through Patriot circles, a well-connected insider has dropped devastating truth bombs exposing the deep state's desperate attempts to cling to power. The revelations confirm what QAnons have long suspected: coordinated hoaxes, evidence destruction, and elite cover-ups are collapsing under white hat operations as President Trump's return dismantles their evil empire. The insider detailed how he nearly joined Phil Lyman at a recent Turning Point USA event in Utah. Lyman presented on stage and walked off moments before the suspicious shooting. Had the insider been there, the narrative would have exploded. Serious doubts surround every aspect of the incident, from the bullet's bizarre path to absurd Man of Steel claims defying logic. Nothing rings true, pointing to a false flag to distract patriots. Questions swirl about Turning Point's prior push for early voting and mail-ins that the insider warned would empower enemies. He withdrew six-figure support for student education after they ignored the dangers, But now the original mission is being reclaimed amid scandals. The Trump administration is strategically repositioning key players, with discussions about shifts for FBI Director Kash Patel and others. This 4D chess keeps deep state off balance as prosecutions near. It ensures no liabilities ahead of massive arrests. Pete Santilli helped trace these to CIA servers on military bases preserving digital evidence. These will fuel military tribunals delivering swift justice to Comey, Brennan, and Mueller, who shielded pedophile networks and shut down probes tied to Aaron Swartz. The Loretta Fuddy affair, tied to current 2026 revelations, was a staged hoax to bury Obama's fraudulent birth certificate. Fuddy, linked to a CIA front group connected to Obama's mother, perished in a minimal crash near shore with military divers involved. Obama is exposed as a CIA creation groomed from birth, with Brennan fabricating his history and ties to Black Panthers as foreign intel ops backed by Saudi assets. QAnons, the storm is here. White hats control everything, with grand juries active and tribunals imminent. The cabal's illusions shatter as mass arrests loom. Trump drains the swamp perfectly. Victory is certain. Hold the line for the Great Reckoning. On July 25, 2026, President Trump stood at the podium and spoke directly about voter fraud. His words were calculated. His message was clear: someone has been committing voter fraud, and his name is Ken Paxton. The mainstream media immediately went silent. Why? Because what Trump knows about Paxton goes far beyond a simple scandal. This is about a $2.7 billion voter fraud operation that has been running for the last 4 years. Here's what they don't want you to know: Ken Paxton didn't act alone. He was coordinating with 47 Texas state officials, federal judges, and university administrators. Together, they created a sophisticated voter registration scheme that altered election results in 3 critical swing states. Saturday 25th of July morning at 3:47 a.m., military intelligence conducted a coordinated raid across Texas, Washington, D.C., and 3 other locations. They seized servers, SWIFT transfer records, and encrypted communications. 47 officials were arrested. But here's the part that will break the internet: 3 federal judges were implicated. 12 university presidents were involved in the cover-up. The operation was funded through shell companies in the Cayman Islands and Cyprus. Sources inside military intelligence say the evidence is overwhelming: 847 pages of encrypted communications, $2.7 billion in fraudulent wire transfers, voter registration databases altered in real time, coordination with foreign entities, confirmed by NSA intercepts. The tribunals are already being prepared. August 15, 2026 is the date. Military judges. Sealed courtrooms. The sentences will be announced publicly. Why is Trump announcing this now? Because the deep state is panicking. They know the evidence is irrefutable. They know the military has everything. They're trying to flee the country, but the borders are sealed. The QFS has already been activated. All fraudulent assets are frozen. $47 billion in seized deep state money is being redirected to the U.S. Treasury. President Trump is preparing a major address within the next 72 hours. When he does, the entire political establishment will be in freefall. The media will have no choice but to report the truth. Sunday, July 26, 2026. They tried to kill Trump. The Qatar Air Force One was a Trojan horse. And Trump caught them red-handed. The deep state thought they were clever. They thought they could hide an assassination plot inside a $400 million gift from Qatar. They were catastrophically wrong. On July 4, 2026, Trump accepted the Qatari-donated Boeing 747-8 as his temporary Air Force One. Within days, Trump's security team discovered something terrifying. The aircraft contained sophisticated surveillance and weapons targeting backdoors embedded in its self-defense systems. The Qatar Intelligence Service, working directly with CIA operatives still embedded in the government, had installed kill switches in the jet's navigation and defensive systems. If activated mid-flight, those backdoors would have made Air Force One completely defenseless. A coordinated attack would have been untraceable. Trump immediately ordered a complete diagnostic. His team found the evidence. They documented everything. Then, the deep state panicked. The New York Times suddenly published classified information about Air Force One's self-defense capabilities, leaked by CIA assets trying to cover their tracks. The Trump administration responded by seeking the phone records of the journalists involved. This wasn't about silencing the press, It was about identifying which deep state operatives had leaked the classified information. The subpoenas targeted the reporters and their relatives, because deep state operatives were communicating through family members to avoid detection. Trump's team had already identified the traitors. Qatar's intelligence chief met with CIA officials in Doha on June 18, 2026, just 2 weeks before the aircraft was delivered. The meeting was about coordinating the assassination plot. Trump knew. His military intelligence team had intercepted the communications. They knew the jet contained backdoors. They knew about the planned attack. The aircraft is now being retrofitted for security upgrades. But the real work is the complete removal of all foreign surveillance and targeting systems. Military engineers loyal to Trump are systematically purging every trace of deep state sabotage. Senate Republicans blocked Schumer's effort to ground the plane because they know Trump is in control. The aircraft will emerge completely secure, a symbol of Trump's victory over the assassination plot. The traitors inside the CIA, the FBI, and the State Department who coordinated with Qatar are being identified. Military tribunals are being prepared. The evidence is airtight. Trump turned their assassination weapon into a trap that exposed their entire network. Justice is coming. Patriots are in control. Q Sunday, July 26, 2026. President Trump just made a move that absolutely terrified the deep state. On July 25, 2026, he put all federal diversity staff on paid leave, effective immediately. The media is calling it routine. Here's what they don't want you to know. What were these diversity programs really doing? While America was sleeping, 312 federal employees were running a $47 million per year operation. Not for diversity training. For funding deep state black operations across multiple agencies. How did they hide IT? Every single federal agency had a chief diversity officer. Each one reported directly to a shadow network operating inside the Department of Justice. The money flowed through shell organizations, universities, and nonprofits. Nobody was watching. Nobody was asking questions. What did Trump's team discover? Trump's intelligence team discovered encrypted communications. They found SWIFT transfer records proving $8.3 billion in fraudulent research grants to universities. These universities were conducting illegal bioweapon research in partnership with foreign governments. Who was involved in this conspiracy? 15 university presidents. 47 federal contractors. 3 members of Congress. 8 judges. They were all coordinating with foreign operatives to develop biological weapons on American soil. The evidence is overwhelming. What happens now? The arrests have already started. FBI director confirmed involvement with deep state. The first wave arrested 312 federal employees. The second wave is targeting the university presidents and contractors. The third wave is coming for Congress and the judiciary. Why did Trump move so fast? Because the deep state was preparing to activate their final contingency plan. They were using these networks to coordinate a massive coup attempt. Trump's team intercepted their communications. He moved first and moved decisively.
We'll get rolling. All right, so we're live on X, live on Instagram, live on Facebook. So got everything rolling. I keep everything organic. Obviously, you can see my fancy background, my grandpa's fireplace. So we're going to talk about 45-48, right? So it's kind of like that old song, If You Don't Know Me By Now, You Will Never, Never, Never Know Me. Remember that song? Yeah, well, think about it. I got my ultimate validation. People always ask him, when's President Trump going to validate you? When's President Trump? He don't ever validate. He validates me every day. Where are you? Pull your heads out your rear ends. So many of you are still so confused, and you shouldn't be, right? Because 45-47 is on his ball cap. That's already world history right there in itself. So if you don't know what 45-47 is, you're definitely not going to appreciate 45-48. And what you see all over social media is what? Oh, President Trump's trolling the left. He's just trolling them. Oh, he loves to make their heads spin. You people, you're the ones with your head spinning. If you think President Trump's trolling, then you've already missed the 45-47. Where the heck are you? This is what's wrong with America. Americans are lazy, complacent, and dumber than an ashtray on a kite. Right? Now, I know some people don't like being called dumb, but when you exemplify that, sometimes you need to be called dumb. Kind of like growing up when I held my dad's flashlight. He yelled at me. Every time it moved, he yelled. Was the yelling fun? No. But guess what I learned to do? Hold the flashlight steady, pay attention to what he was doing. Because I was all his, and he had me there for a reason. And if I didn't want to get yelled at, then guess what I did? I held that flashlight steady. So Americans right now, Republicans and MAGA, you're looking just as atrocious as libtards. Because you're all about, oh, do this and do that. You don't even know what you're commanding people in operations to do. And it's also already been done. Because if you would read the laws and the orders of the 45-47 that's been invoked and what has been enforced, you'd see that all this has already been done. And the more of the, what I call the target audience, which are the normies, the normsters, whatever you want to call them, I've labeled them a lot of things, but that target audience out there, they're in the mainstream world because they're not looking anywhere else, and they're mostly not capable of thinking on their own, which is why this is a painful rollout if you're a true patriot. It's a painful rollout. It's more than painful. Anyone with IQ, and I may be bragging, but I have a 160 plus IQ. Anyone with IQ, it's oh my gosh, it really is. It's like taking a sledgehammer and just sitting here and tapping yourself, watching the MAGA and Republicans who are supposed to be more educated than the libtards that the laggard MAGA, the laggard Republicans, they're sitting here trolling and trashing the libtards, and to people like us, we're like, you look just as equal as them. Because you don't even know what your own president that you did go vote for, yes, thank you, your civil liberty, but you don't even know what he's doing, which is sad. So as always, I still handwrite notes to keep me concise and precise. I don't really need notes, but I keep it this way to keep it concise, precise, and also on point. 45-48 is not trolling the left. If your friends and family, MAGA, Republican, conservative, are saying that, you need to virtually slap them with a 45-47 that's already visible, and then also say, hey, don't you know it's already a #1 best-selling books by a retired Army veteran, self-published? And by the way, I signed my contract for my publicity contract. I signed my publicity contract February the 18th, 2023 at Trump International private golf course with the man present. I'm the only person who's been allowed to sit in his chair at his always reserved table and sign my contract. That was 43 days before he put the 45-47 image on his ball cap. So how the heck did I already know what's going on lawfully, but more specifically, uniquely? It's not just laws and orders. It's a unique blueprint strategy. I'm the one that wrote it. It's a chronological order. 45-47 is a chronological. Then part 2 is a lot bigger. This is all special operations, heavy special operations. It teaches you how to think outside the box, irregular, unconventional, asymmetrical, all kinds of warfare. It teaches you got to sharpen your skills, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot expect change by staying the same yourself. And a lot of you are out there still pumping this bullcrap nonsense about nothing changes till we see arrest. No, nothing changes till you change your freaking attitude. Your piss poor, negative, Nancy Debbie Downer attitude. Nothing changes until you learn to prevent a swamp from growing. You allowed the swamp to grow, you allowed it to thrive, and you allowed it to flourish all those years. It's all your fault. Every one of you. All of us. Now, it wasn't my fault individually, and some of you it wasn't individually because you do know your laws, your orders. the processes, functions, etc. However, since we can't sit here and know who exactly it was, and the more, as Mark Twain says, when a patriot starts out, he's hated, scorned, mocked, ridiculed, but all of a sudden, when his cause succeeds, everybody joins him, and guess what those everybody look like? Oh, I knew this was going on. I've always known it. So see, you're going to have, I'm the biggest Alabama football fan ever. Yeah, I guess you are. When Alabama has the most national championships in football out of all colleges, I guess you are the biggest Alabama fan ever. It's the same mentality. There's no way to know who is and who isn't. So the only way you decipher that is, well, like President Trump says, the more you have merit-based, like me, who can quote this, I wrote these right off the top of my head, 200 and almost 600 pages. I did write a blueprint out, but I wrote the blueprint by hand. So when you look at what the average American is quote-unquote debating out there and what their conversations look like, oh, we need a rest. It's so little. It's no IQ involved whatsoever. The average Republican, the average MAGA, the average conservatives debates are like this long. There's no IQ. Go back and look at letters between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. Look at the letters they were writing each other. You want to talk about knowledge? And people wonder why we look the way we look. And the better technology gets, the dumber people get. You got everything right here, but what is everybody doing? Looking at short little videos, and they're watching drama-fed, spool-fed bullcrap. So, President Trump is not trolling. So let's look at Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution. All it says in there is 4 years in a term. It don't say how many terms. So it goes back to, I always tell people, don't use the Constitution as your crutch. You'll hear Democrats and libtards out there, they're always saying, oh, the Constitution, we got to protect the Constitution, the Constitution, They can't even name a single term from a single sentence of a single paragraph in the Constitution. And then it goes back to a metaphor I like to use, like your family tree. Some of you out there, like me, I love my family tree, I love my lineage and tracing my lineage, etc., etc., etc. Well, when you're doing a family tree, that means you want to know your origin, where you came from, who you are, and that can tell a lot about who you are individually right here today. Not just who you are lineage-wise, but who you exactly are. So you want to know your origin. How come Americans don't want to know their origin? Americans don't. See, our founders were genius before technology. The Electoral College applies today just like it did back then without technology. It don't have a thing to do with technology. It has everything to do with a formula that benefits everyone. They also separated religion, not on paper in our documents, but on paper with each other. They separated religion. That way they never used one single thing that could become a crutch to anyone else or an alienation to anyone else. They used straight up knowledge, what would benefit everyone as a whole. Now Americans are the flip of that. It's what's for me first, and then I'll think about my neighbor. If everyone will start flipping that script, as I call it, flip your script. If you'll think about your neighbor first and your neighbor will think about you, then it becomes reciprocal. And it's a trade-off, all right? It doesn't mean you're not thinking about your family and friends, but it still means that, look, I'm not going to change how you think when you go home at night. I don't care what you're doing on your property as long as you're doing everything that you demand of me. Same thing, right? And then what you and I do at home have nothing to do with us sharing a highway together. Those highways have to get paved. They have potholes, etc. They have to get filled. So there's certain things out there we all benefit from, but has nothing to do when you go home at night, how you believe, who you worship, and all those things. That's a personal choice. So see, so many people don't even know terms anymore. They don't even listen to terms. They don't look at them, listen to them, learn them, apply them. So don't use the Constitution as your crutch if you're not going to get to know your founders. your founders. You can tell every Republican, conservative, MAGA, Democrat, libtard, etc. You can tell how intelligent someone is and or dumb they are by their knowledge on the Federalist Papers. All right, you got to go look at the Federalist Papers. That is the origin and the mindset of our founders, because the Constitution, when it was written and drafted, and then when it was enacted, all right, what came between those dates? The Federalist Papers. So you want to go read up on what our founders thought about term limits? Federalist Papers number 10, number 49, number 51, number 53, and number 72. They all favored no term limits, because if everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, everyone each in their own lane, if you just want to be a regular civilian, you don't want to be a public official, that's okay too. There's a responsibility for you, but there's also a responsibility for public officials to stay in their lane and also do their job in their lane of whatever they wanted to run for. But it's kind of like what we have today, and a lot of you will resonate with this. In small towns in the South, you'll have people run for a position like coroner, right? Now, someone's got to do it, yes. Someone needs to do it, yes. But a lot of people will run for like a spot like coroner, right? Get in, become trustworthy to the community, to the families and friends, but then that person will turn and run for some like representative spot. And then what happens is they built the trust, yes. Did they seem to be a good person? Yes. But then they get into a position or not, and then they'll get in this position, money. Money, 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 money. And that's where compromise comes in. Now, someone could run for coroner, yes, and end up being a good representative, yes. There's always a could be. But what are their intent and their motives? And President Trump has quoted this before, where he said, have you noticed that the swamp, what they did in the swamp, someone would get fired or not elected, and the swamp found a way to put them somewhere, somehow, some way, and they still stayed in their residual base. It was a swamp for a reason. They never fired someone because they were straight up incompetent and see ya, adios. No, they always found a way to spawn them back somewhere, somehow, some way in their system. And when you educate yourself on that, you'll see that what they established was a democracy. Oh, they quote democracy correctly to their establishment, not the United States of America, which the same Constitution outlines in Article 4, Section 4. We're a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy. And what's happened through the years is they've said the word so much that people have adopted it and let it become a norm, and it shouldn't be, and it's not. Now, when President Trump uses a term, that is a troll tactic. That is showing you, yeah, you know, they would get out there, oh, we got to protect our democracy, protect our democracy. Yeah, we got to protect it, all right. No, he's destroying it. He's destroyed that mentality. And now you've got to change your mentalities out there. And that's what's not taking place so far, even in the quote-unquote patriot world. Everybody's still following a lot of mainstream people who are actually part of the operation from another manner, like X over here that I'm live on right now. X is a captured operation. You wonder why President Trump don't ever post on there, Harley? Because it's not part of the overall picture. When Elon acquired X, that was your right there. That was your sign. That was X marks the spot. X is a captured operation, the little blue check that everybody now has. Now you don't have to be so famous or so incredible. You can pay $7 a month for it. Same thing with Palantir. You have all these quote-unquote patriots, Palantir in these data centers. These people, oh, this is bad. This is not good. No, we've had data centers since the 1940s. All right. And then also, what are data centers? They house what? Data. No crap. So if you're saying we don't need data centers, then that means you don't need a cell phone. I mean, it's really common sense. Palantir, same thing. They had a contract with the Army since 2011. But there's four words in a recent Yahoo Finance article that summarizes the whole thing, that shows if you're dumber than an ashtray on a motorcycle versus are you applying what's actually going on and what has been changed for the good. 4 words in one article: compiling data, existing contracts. When you hear the average complaint by the average Republican, the average MAGA, the average conservative, we don't have to get into Democrats and libtards. We could just straight up butcher all of you quote-unquote Republicans out there who think you're so knowledgeable. You're not. You look as atrocious as the libtards when you talk about Palantir. 4 words. And the main complaint by Republicans, they're going to have our information. Hammer, sledgehammer. They already have your information. See, this is why Americans, to the rest of the world, you look dumb. Do you want to look dumb? Well, you already do. So you're already in a dumb hole, which means you got to dig out of your dumb hole just to get back even, to even have a chance to look like a credible mind out there capable of thinking on your own. Compiling data from existing contracts. So either you want President Trump and what you've been seeing, which means you got to know what you've been seeing and apply it, or you want the past. What was the past before President Trump? Obama, Hillary, Bill, Bush, all of them. Janet Reno, Colin Powell, you name it. This is not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen, and so many of you are making it rocket science. So you got to know your origin. It's real. You got to know your origin. So the Federalist Papers outline how a president can most certainly, and you should want that, because 1, experience and wisdom. Experience and wisdom don't mean that you're automatically due to be compromised. When every public official will take you one-on-one, if you don't want to be a public official, and look you in the eye, and you ask your questions, legit questions, and then they're reciprocal to that, that's what it's supposed to look like. But how can you have credible questions when you don't even know the verbiage of how the 3 branches even operate or function? And that's where our founders were so genius. Our founders, but mainly Madison. James Madison is the sole single author of the Constitution, which is why it's even more hilarious that he had to go into a courtroom in 1803 to describe what a law looked like to the Supreme Court, of which his brain established the whole process and function of the 3 branches. The founding father, sole author, had to go in and explain what a freaking law is and was and how it operates. No wonder Americans look so stupid today, because just 16 years after the Constitution, we had to have a founding father go into the court and explain what a law is and was. That's why it's a landmark and landslide case. A law repugnant to the Constitution is void. But we can't have void laws because we have void minds claiming to be educated out there. And you're not. But you can be. But you got to leave all this propaganda and all these drama pushers and crumb throwers aside. And 99% of what you're seeing on social media, crumb throwers and laggards, they have no idea what's going on because they don't apply that President Trump is using a strategy and a blueprint. He has to. That's why he puts laws and orders in all caps all the time on his post. He has to use laws and orders. So if you'll go read the Founding Fathers, they show you why too much turnover creates instability. They also break it down more specifically to the states. That's why they specifically talk more about states, representatives, states, congressmen and women. And when you understand the states and the power in the states, then the Federalist common sense once you learn the states. But again, until you go read the founders, and it'd take me 35, 40 minutes just to read the Federalist Papers to you. So you got to go read that. So here's what the Founding Fathers did with the three branches. This is why so many Americans are struggling. The three branches were made co-equal to each other. And I'm going to show you a model that I've shown before countless times where the legislative branch and the judicial branch overtook the executive branch. And that's where they created their swamp, what President Trump calls the establishment. We'll get to that in a minute. But before we get there, this is real simple. And once every American learns this and applies this, you're going to be more powerful than you've ever been before in your life. And you won't be dumb anymore if you're dumb. I don't know which one of you are. God love you. All right? But the legislative branch, they were all put in an order for a reason. Legislative writes the laws, and then they pass the laws. Then you got your executive branch next, who enforces the laws. Then you have your judicial branch, who interprets the laws. So recently, you heard a congressman talking about Hegseth wanting to have a bunch of yes men. All he wants is a bunch of yes men to do as they're told. Yes, that's exactly how the military operates. Because when the commander-in-chief at the top of the echelon up here, the sole person, the time he gives an order and it trickles to your generals and the generals to the colonels, etc., all the way down, yeah, they're supposed to be yes men. Because if he's doing what he's supposed to be doing as elected by the people, then all you got to do is hold the president accountable. And every one of these down here would be doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing because you would know what you're supposed to be doing right here. And also, if the president is doing what he's supposed to be doing, the executive branch. So that's why our founders, you vote in your legislative branch, you vote in your executive. The president nominates the judges, the Senate, the legislative branch, confirms them. So yes, the judicial branch is supposed to do exactly what the president is enforcing by what was written and passed by the legislative, which is influenced by you, the people. Voila! That's simple. And if you look at all of our states and federal, we have a lot of laws that need to be voided because the judicial and legislative branch, all their about 55 to 60% throughout the years, lawyers have done is pass laws for you, but it wasn't for you. It was for them. And then they smoke and mirrored you with the same rhetoric. That's why so many people struggle with me. You cannot watch me, ladies and gentlemen. You can't just simply watch podcasts with me. You have to get your laws and orders out that apply to the Constitution, that apply to our foundation, that apply to what President Trump's doing with the military. Then you'll see the true resetting of the Declaration of Independence, of which is what's taking place right now, the 45-47. You can't simply watch me. That's the problem with so many people. You have to learn it and apply it. And that's what's been taking place. And it really is, people. I have followers out there who love all I say all the time. It's that simple. It is that simple. What isn't simple is the application. I can't make you apply it. Your responsibility are the checks and balances that you've heard about. That's your responsibility. That's not Congress's responsibility. The Constitution was written for them as a framework of how they're to operate and function, but it was written for you to hold them accountable via checks and balances. So it's a reciprocal process again. And what's happened all these years, and I'm going to do the timeline again, from the 1870s to 2016, was not reciprocal. Americans got spoiled, lazy, complacent, and put too much trust into all these smoke and mirror people who use laws and orders as smoke and mirrors. Again, why so many people struggle watching me is because I taught laws and orders and people do, well, we've always had laws and orders. I show you where they've been enforced. Every bit of my platform shows you the 45-47 enforcement of the laws. and how it has absolutely drained the swamp. There's no more deep state. Anyone out there pumping that nonsense, they don't know what's going on either. And I can show you that. But you got to go apply it by you looking and going, wait, this executive order, this national emergency, this proclamation. And then there's visuals to all those that President Trump's been using. There's visual actions already done. So, let me get to page 2 here. I don't have many pages. Hindsight's always 20/20. Now, what's happening right now is you have so many people, you're living in your moment, you're going to work, you're going to the beach, you're going to vacation, you're going to the bar, you have just this much time in your life for laws and orders breakdown. So, again, it goes back to what are your priorities? If you're whining, griping, fussing, complaining, arguing, trying to debate with someone, but you don't have the goods, you're going to be put in a corner and you're going to be virtually slapped, right? That's why a lot of people don't go on shows with me anymore, because all they're doing is throwing crumbs to you, and they're trying to prevent people from finding me because I end their party. Once you learn that there's a full blueprint strategy, chronological order from 2017 to present day, with all the visuals, all the actions, all the enforcements, it absolutely terminates all this other propaganda and all this other crumb throwers and all these laggards and everything else out there, because you don't need that in your life. It's all public. None of this is secretive. It's all straight up laws and orders that are currently invoked by President Donald John Trump. Then if you have a problem with President Donald John Trump, then a veteran like myself can show where you are an ignorant fool, and you're also disgracing the United States military. So if you claim to be a military supporter, armed forces supporter, but you want to call something over here hogwash and bullcrap, then all you're doing is trashing special operations. Special operations. And we use irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, not conventional, not regular, for a reason. It's not secretive. Again, you got to apply it. So why are you whining, complaining, griping, fussing, yelling, moaning, kicking, cussing, arguing, debating? Because I can assure you right now, if you call it a debate, you're not debating. Because when you don't have the goods to bring to the table, someone like me steps up to the table, you know what happens when you mess with a bull, you get the horns, right? So when someone like me steps to the table and someone's out there pumping all this bull crap and nonsense, well, explain this, explain this, explain this, explain this. And all of my explain this has a cause and effect. It has a visual, verbal action and a visual action. And then it's game over. So hindsight's 20/20. And when you're going through a revolution like we're going through, when you're going through a resetting of the Declaration, when you're going through it, you've got to separate all the other stuff and get straight to what I call the brass knuckles. Right? You got to get straight to what is President Trump using. He's the face. He's the main face. So what is he using? And once you do that and separate all this other bullcrap out there that is designed to trap you, and a lot of it is designed for good reasons because of the people out there who have yet to hear someone like me. And I'm the only one who talks like this, so I say someone like me. I'm on with a lot of great colleagues who know what's going on, but they have a different strategy with it, right? They have a different role with what they're doing. But they all quote me, and they all reference me. And I reference them with certain things of what they're doing, because we're part of that operation from that level. So, hindsight's 20/20. And I'm going to show you this breakdown. I'm going to do the list of it, and I'm going to break it down. This is the hindsight 20/20 to show you what President Trump has drained, but also it's what he drained, but it's also where the legislative and the judicial overtook the executive. So once you see the 40,000-foot view, I know you can't see my hands, but if you can see my hands, you see the 40,000-foot view, and you're looking down, this is what you've been looking at, and maybe you didn't realize it. So in 1871, the Treaty of Washington, an organic act, but a Treaty of Washington, all right, was signed. Now, if you went to Google, Google's programmed, and AI is programmed to tell you something otherwise. But you got to think outside the box, all right? 1871 was fresh off the cusp of construction period, Reconstruction, and the Civil War. Ulysses S. Grant, president, all right, the Treaty of Washington. And it'll tell you that, oh, it's a conspiracy out there, that people are saying, oh, well, Ulysses S. Grant in Great Britain, but, well, why did they sign a contract? And they paid each other. All right, the very nation that we had fought our independence from, we're signing a contract with. Now, it wouldn't make sense immediately right then if you had been living in that moment. You might have thought, well, that's a good treaty. This is a good thing. And then watch the timeline. 1878, the American Bar Association was established. If you go to Google again, program to Google, it'll tell you bar don't stand for British Accreditation Registrar. It just says, oh, it's a signifier of, oh, when you go through the threshold in a courtroom. A bar, the word bar, that's a random term just to put in there because, oh, you wouldn't know that visual. So forget about the British Accreditation Registrar, just forget about that. And oh, well, why were all these bar establishments established in the 1870s? Then 1889, Stoutenberg versus Hennick. Go read the case. All right, it talks about D.C. as a foreign territory and how it was trying to rule outside of it. A lot of people don't know that D.C., by the military, is a foreign territory. A lot of people don't know that FAA guidelines right now, as we speak, until they're changed, the United States Armed Forces aircraft have to request permission to get into the D.C. boundary. Our military has to request access to get in when they're flying. Ask a pilot. All right? Then they have their own motto, seal, constitution, and everything. Now, to you, that can sound crazy and old fogey and this, that, well, imaginary borders around this place. Well, that's how they treated it all these years. No matter how crazy it seems, that's how they treated it. 1870s and 1913, President Trump has had a quote. He said from the 1870s to 1913. Now, why would President Trump, if this was all conspiracy or all, just made up or something that I'm just making up off the top of my head, then why would he be pulling this time period, 1870s, with what you already know of the 1870s, to 1913, once you know what 1913 was and is? Why is he saying that from the 1870s to 1913, our nation had more money than it knew what to do with thanks to tariffs? More money than they knew what to do with, and they used tariffs during that time period. But where did the money go? Now watch this timeline. 1913, the Federal Reserve was established, and income tax was established. So all of a sudden, you got to look at where people were at that time period. What were they thinking? What were they doing? It was pretty easy come, easy go America at that time period. Wasn't too bad. There were a few Indian wars that had been taking place, Native American, but they had all these things that had taken place throughout the 1870s and 80s, things like that. But we were coming into a pretty good period if you were just an average, normal American, not, just living your normal life, right on the prairies and everything, etc., right? Well, then 1914, Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated, sprung us into World War I, the first big world war, all right? So immediately following this income tax and Federal Reserve, World War I. Now, if you're just living at that time period, you think, oh, it's just a war, all right? Fast forward, 1929, Vatican City was established, February 1929, October 1929, the 24th to the 29th. Boom, stock market crashes. 1932, Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. The New Deal were all these financial programs and all these different things that people put their money into. During the Great Depression? I mean, my grandpa lived through that. I've heard those stories my whole life until his passing. I heard all the Great Depression stories. That was the greatest generation, remember? They were badass when it came to wars. But what was happening over here, they were being tricked. and conned. Remember President Ronald Reagan's quote about the government? The 9 worst words you'll ever hear, most terrifying. Oh, I'm with the United States government and I'm here to help. Remember that? Yeah. So 1932, President Trump has a quote not too long ago. He was speaking and he took a shot at the New Deal. He said it's a lot greater than that. Because back then, those people were bamboozled into thinking all these things were for them. It was all government debt. It was all debt. That's also when they stopped the gold. You had to turn in gold. And if you didn't turn it in, there were consequences to that. I mean, all these things started taking place. 1932. That's called the managed democracy and the illusion of choice. They give you all these different things. Well, here you go. Here's your selection. Here's you this deal and this deal. And here's you this program and this program. And you're like, oh, which one do I choose? Oh, man. Oh, I chose this one. Country music. All of you country music fans out there, you are just as bamboozled. If you're still following mainstream music, you are a hypocrite. Sorry. I have Billboard hits as an independent artist. I beat the major record labels. I know how to go around them to this day as an independent. It's going to cost a pretty penny, but we did it with peanuts a long time ago. All right? I have the same top hits, same chart, same top Billboard radio airplay chart that all the major record labels use, same one. I have the secret for every single singer, songwriter out there. But I do have a #1 best-selling book in it, but guess what's not happening? You don't see a lot of artists flocking over to my emails, etc. when I have the whole secret, the whole blueprint to it. Managed democracy, illusion of choice. They give you all these, they give you a buffet, and you think, oh, you didn't discover any of those singers. You haven't discovered a single, Morgan Wallen, Taylor Swift, no, you didn't discover them. You were told this is your choices. You can listen to these. And just because you don't like one, but you love this one, you still didn't discover any of them. That's a managed democracy and an illusion of choice. It's the same thing that the Democrats and the libtards and the communist way of thinking has done. Every one of you, all these years, all the way back even with Roosevelt. Sucks, but it's the truth. All right, 1933. We went from March the 4th inauguration to January the 20th. 1941, the very first War Powers Act. Why do we need a War Powers Act, ladies and gentlemen? This goes back to what I was saying earlier. If the president's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and the Congress are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you will all be in what? Reciprocality, thinking with each other. If we needed to go to war, we would all be on the same page, because we would all be able to do what? Identify the enemy. So why do we need an act for Congress only, the legislative only? Well, because they were in like thieves, thick as thieves, right? With whom? Judicial. If you look at the movies by the greatest actors of all time, John Wayne and James Stewart, in 1939, both of them, all right? You have Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, where James Stewart is showing you how Congress worked all the way back in the 30s. Hey, sonny boy, we'll put 5 bills in one package. You may get 3 one time and we get 2, and the next time y'all get 3 and we get 2, but we put them together and we pass them together. And he was like, let's break them all down. No, sonny boy, that ain't how we do it. It's called compromise. This was 1930s. Showing Americans what was going on in the political games that Congress is already playing. And you wonder why we look stupid today? John Wayne, President Trump was just talking about our business, a business of America. It's got to be ran like a business. John Wayne, the movie Stagecoach. John was a young lad. Go watch it. He's in a stagecoach. They're rolling around out in the desert, right? And there's a big old guy in there, big old mustache in his suit, right? And he's in this stagecoach. He said, what this nation needs is a businessman for president. They were telling you way back then. It's right in front of everybody. So we didn't need a War Powers Act. And this was before Title 10, Chapter 47 was passed in 1950. So see, why did we need a separate chapter? Now, I'm all about Title 10 from the standpoint of operational, because President Trump is using all the laws and orders against the deep state. He's trolling them with their own actions, legislative actions, using it against them. So when they say, you can't do that, well, you're the one who passed it, morons. See, once you learn what President Trump is doing, then you'll love, if you love him already, you're going to love him even more. Because he's doing it lawfully off of the, what? Their standards, their terms. He's using their terms and using it against them. This is how genius this is. This is why it's so exciting to Army veterans like myself who got an opportunity. Oh, I've got a badge. Oh, I've got one. That's why a lot of people looking atrocious out there claiming that we're all together and, oh, this is bad and all this other stuff. Nah, let it all shake out. Karma's a you know what, by the way. There's a lot of people that's going down. 1944, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected for his 4th term, ladies and gentlemen, 1944. You most certainly could serve past 2 terms. Nowhere in the United States Constitution or the Federalist Papers are there term limits. They were actually against term limits because of stability. Well, guess who creates that? You do. This all goes back to you, the people. If you're going to walk around and quote the preamble and you say, we the people, then you need to know your responsibility. That is responsibility, accountability, all those create stability. So if you have instability, guess whose fault it is? Yours. It's not the elected officials. They're supposed to be representing you. Well, they've been representing you all right because all of their actions reflect all of your attitudes. Not you patriots. This is for your family and friends, remember. If you're a patriot, I talk to the family and friends and the ones still in the laggard zone. All right, in the negative zone, in the Debbie Downer, and the whole world's falling on us. Oh, it's falling on us. No, it's not. It is not doing any such thing. If you pull your heads out of your behinds, you would see what's going on. It's not that. 1949, NATO was established. Oh, an alliance between whom? Look at all what's taken place up to that point in this timeline since 1870s. 1950, Title 10, Chapter 47 was established. Why? Why did we need legislation ahead of the president? If legislative branch is doing what they're supposed to be doing already, they do declare the war, yes. But guess what? As I showed you, and I don't have the book here with me. Let's see. Do I have it? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Right here. Military government. You might want to get you one of these. I didn't write it. I don't make money on it. This is what the military uses. This is what JAG uses and military intelligence right here. Military government and martial law. The president can most certainly declare war without the Congress, ladies and gentlemen, because it does go back to what Roosevelt presented to the people in 1941 when he told the Congress if they don't take action, he would, as president, as commander-in-chief. Guess what supports this? The Constitution supports it. The United States Constitution supports military government. You know why? Because military came before the Constitution. Military came before the Declaration of Independence. The United States military law was established long before the Declaration and long before the Constitution. So when you hear people out there saying that, oh, the National Guard can't operate with civil and law enforcement, yes, we can. Oh, yes, we can. And it's supported by whom? The Constitution, and also all of these Congresses, all these years, even before the 1870s, Congress has supported it as well. Oh, yeah, we can. And we can take over this nation without it being a seditious act. Oh, yes, we can. You might want to go read and study you might want to read and study. And by the way, when you make that applicable to your mind, you got to think about all the bases around the world that we're established, and our joint bases that we've established. Who's in charge of those? Generals. Do you think the world wants to go against the United States military, all of our artillery, all of our aircraft, all of our capabilities up here, unconventional, irregular, asymmetrical, etc.? I don't think so. So when you say the deep state, when you hear people out there saying the deep state are in panic, the deep state's doing it, no, they're not. Where are they? How and where? Whom? Have you seen any retaliation on the United States of America from all these people? Iran, China, North Korea, Venezuela? If they were truly pissed and mad and thinking that democracy is being destroyed, they would have some retaliation up their sleeves. Have you seen any of that? No, you haven't. So see, you got to apply this to your brain and go, wait, if their castle was really being destroyed, surely they had some mechanisms like all those movies and TV shows you all watch out there. Boy, y'all love you some dang TV shows that's all about crime and gangs and all these establishments. Boy, you see how they have all these retaliation moves and retaliation tactics that they do when their castle's being brought down. So you don't think that the world's biggest democracy establishment, the swamp, wouldn't be doing that to us? Come on, folks. Don't make me preach on this Sunday. 1951, term limits were established unconstitutionally. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say term limits. Nowhere in our Federalist Papers did the founders say anything about term limits except for how they were against them. And you have the Congress, there we are again, 1951, legislative branch. Now look at all of what's taking place. Do your math on what's transpired up to 1951 that I've already broken down. Why did the Congress put term limits on the president but not themselves? If you're going to break the Constitution or make an example or an argument of why they're good, then why weren't they good for everyone that needed a term? If term limits are good for the president, then they should have been good for whom? The Senate and the House. They didn't do that. They only put it on the executive branch. Now watch. 1950 to 53, Korean War starts. 1955, Vietnam starts. 1961, President Dwight David Eisenhower, January 17th, January 17th, 1961, has a farewell speech. He talked about a military-industrial complex, and he also included the medical field. He did not like where the military was going because of money and benefits, paying soldiers, because it creates what? Complacency, laziness. And then what do you have? A bunch of soldiers who come in, oh, I'm serving my nation. I raised my right hand. I took the oath. Yeah, but what'd you take it for? Benefits? Those are privileges. See, we have a mindset problem in America. It's okay to get benefits, but what was your intent? What were your motives? Was that the sole reason you joined, or did you join to fight for your nation, to fight for your state, to fight for your family, to fight for your friends? What'd you sign for? And it has nothing to do with how long you served, none of these things. There's so many people out there, oh, Derek Johnson, you didn't serve long enough. What's that got to do with my mind? What's that got to do with my application? What's that have to do with my knowledge, my skills, etc.? It don't have a thing to do with it. You morons. See, so when you look at people out there who just, most of these people who are critics, guess what they are? Civilians. Never been in the military, never been in government, never been in law enforcement. But, they're a critic of Derek Johnson because, he didn't serve long enough. He can't know what he's talking about. Well, I most certainly must know what I'm talking about because these are #1 best-selling books. Independent, self-published, signed right in front of President Donald John Trump. The only person allowed to sit in his chair at his always reserved table. Pretty sure I know what I'm talking about. So see, you people have got to stop following all these panty wasters. That's all they are. They're oxygen thieves. That's all they do. They occupy oxygen, and you allow it to clog you up. All you want to do, you think you can debunk me? You got to take the same laws and orders that I use and show me how they don't mean what they most certainly mean. See, when they can't do that, what do? They revert to what? name calling, accusations, everything that President Trump's been accused of, I've got the same pen. But you know why? Because we're God chosen. And I say that kind of braggadociously. I do. I'll be honest with you. Because when you look at President Trump's Hebrew gematria and simple, he and I align on everything. We got the same numbers. Boom! Shakalaka! Right? So, Eisenhower, 5-star general, 5-star general, never saw combat. 5-star general, never saw combat. Let that sink into you, all you military industrial complex fools. 5-star general, only 8 post the Civil War. 5-star general, never saw combat. Master strategist. See, and if you were a true veteran, let me get on you veterans out there for a moment. If you were a true veteran, you'd be about people, not wars. Now, if something needed us, absolutely, baby. Let's go. We're ready. It's a mindset. And when you break down what took place via who was putting us in these places all these years from 1950 to 2016, it don't add up. Only thing that adds up is their monetary residuals. As President Trump said, the defense contracts and the lobbyists. That's the only part that adds up. You should be pissed, veterans. You should be more pissed at the people who created all this than the ones sitting here telling you what's going on, who did it, why they did it, how they did it. You only display your ignorance. If you claim to be a veteran, and if you claim to be against President Trump, and if you claim to be against another veteran, your brother in arms here, showing the American people what's taking place lawfully that supports our foundation and our whole origin of military. This book right here teaches prevention. Prevent, prevent, prevent. Prevent, prevent, prevent. That's why President JFK, President John F. Kennedy, he wanted special operations thinking in every aspect of the military. But what do we have in the aspects of the military of the past that President Trump's been cleaning out? We got a bunch of military industrial complex all about their DD-214s for what? Personal service, personal accolades, personal bank accounts. Not the greater wealth of the American public and the greater wealth of society. 1963, John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy, he had an executive order that he introduced in January. And then it didn't pass till June. And if you go to Google again, Google will tell you that, Google tells you all the time, you're a conspiracy theory. Well, in June, Executive Order 11110, a lot of ones there, 11110. All right, Executive Order 11110, June, was about the Department of Education and money from the Treasury. June, July, August, September, October. Boom. November. 6 months later. Bam. What takes place? Well, we know what took place in November of 1963. Exactly what took place. So, why was it such a cover-up? If that was an actual quote-unquote assassination, then why was it such a cover-up? It should have never been a cover-up if that was the case. If that was a true assassination, then what took place should have been exactly what it was. It should have been that public to the people, hey, we have an atrocity that happened right now. But Executive Order 11110 went against the establishment. And the actual, when you go to Google, it'll tell you, conspiracy theorists out there say this and that and this and that, and they try to spin it this way, and that old JFK was trying to drain the Federal Reserve. Well, why would they have such an issue? Why would they have an issue with President JFK establishing Executive Order 11110 going to the Treasury, and it was $4-something billion, something like that? Why would they have such an issue with it? they wouldn't have had an issue with it. All right, so when you look at the timeline, 1968, the Unified Budget Act was passed. We left the gold standard. 1971, the Nixon shock. Oh, that's when Congress made the dollar as valuable as they wanted it and invaluable. They call that inflation. All right, 1973, here we go, another biggie. Those are big, but here's another biggie. 1973, President Richard Nixon vetoed. He vetoed a certain bill, right? Well, guess who overrode it? Congress did. With a 2/3 vote, Congress overrode it, and they passed the War Powers Resolution. It was so controversial that a couple years later they had to come back, put the word act behind it, because it was so controversial. That was basically an amendment to the first War Powers Act of 1941. Why do we need a War Powers Act? Then they took it one step deeper into their establishment, their swamp, by making a president declare a national emergency to be able to use the military. Why would a president have to declare a national emergency if, again, you the people, the Congress were doing what they're supposed to be doing, and the president doing what they're supposed to be doing, the reciprocality again of every role, responsibility, accountability, and stability? Why would we need an act, quote unquote, where the president could declare a national emergency? That one thing right there exposes all of the swamp. Because from 1979 to 2016, there were 25 executive orders with national emergencies declared that were still open. Iran, this is why so many Republicans, conservatives, and MAGA look atrocious. God love you. I'm trying to. Thank God, God loves you, because I'm struggling. I definitely don't like you, but I'm definitely struggling loving you, and I'm gonna work on that. But again, from 1979, when President Trump says 47 years, that is exactly what he's referencing. Executive Order 12170, November the 18th, 1979. That's older than me. We have a national emergency that's been continued every year for what? They had zero intentions in their quote-unquote bureaucracy and their quote-unquote diplomacy. They had zero intentions of ever terminating it. Hence, Obama giving them $1.7 billion in cash and $150 billion in other ways that was going to be coming to them. And you Republicans out there, you quote-unquote Republicans and quote-unquote rhinos, I call you the resurrected rhinos, and you're over there, oh, he said he wasn't going to start a war. You ignorant fools. He didn't start a war. This is where you don't appreciate military. There's a huge difference in a war and a conflict, and especially one that has an executive order that's 47 years old, continued by them for all those years, with no intention of ever ending it. They teed up. You play golf out there? They, the deep state, teed up Iran for them to use a nuclear weapon. And you don't want to recognize that? You are a fool. There's no other way to describe it. You also prove you don't want to learn what President Trump's doing, which is also atrocious. 1991, September the 11th. September the 11th. Isn't that a famous date in U.S. history? And I'm not being rude here. Isn't that a famous date, September the 11th? Oh, 2001. Oh, yeah. Well, September the 11th, 1991, George Herbert Walker Bush, New World Order speech. How did that slip over you Republicans? How's that still slipping over you? 10 years to the day. Weapons of mass destruction. 10 years to the day of a New World Order speech. 10 years to the day. But the day before, September the 10th, Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld gets on world TV and tells the world that $2.3 trillion was missing from the Pentagon. Wonder why President Trump in certain articles out there. By the way, the press are controlled by 47 United States Code, Section 606, which is a statute power of declared a national emergency, by the way. It's a wartime order. And since the United States Supreme Court clarified that President Trump can most certainly invoke and has invoked the 1798 Aliens Act, which is a wartime order only as well, it shows you we're in a wartime situation, a true wartime situation, which means President Trump is also utilizing 47 United States Code, Section 606, which includes the Communications Act of 1934 and 1996, which he can control the broadcast, etc. So would you care to explain why the number 2.3 has also been used in multiple articles out there by the quote-unquote mainstream media that people think's weaponized still? They were weaponized. Were. They're not anymore. Strategy, tactic, blueprint. Once you learn the 45-now 48 blueprint, it'll all make sense. But until you read it, study it, comprehend it, and apply it, it's not going to make sense. But every time I'm weekly, just like these weekly broadcasts, it's overlapping what's already been done. And every patriot that follows me, they're following along. All of you out there, you newbies and stuff, welcome. But every patriot's following along. And every speech by President Trump has an overlapping section, meaning half of it's already been said and done. The other half has already been done. He's just now saying it. You got to learn that. 45-47, now 48, is an operation. It's a military operation. And it has phases in it. And you've seen all these different phases. 2012, Obama reversed the Smith-Mundt Act, which means the media could use propaganda for quote-unquote news. So from the 2010s and 2012s, guess what you've been seeing and hearing? Woo! Gaslighting galore. They gaslight the American public. Gaslight. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. That's a conspiracy theory. That was before President Trump took over. Then they're using it as distraction pieces when they need to. But for the first time in United States journalist history, you've seen the terms capitulation, white flag of surrender, puppet government, occupied country, and restoration. Every one of those terms, ladies and gentlemen, the mainstream media is using out there, they don't apply to federal law, anything. They're all law war manual terms, which apply to international law, ladies and gentlemen. That's all it is. President Trump has validated me to China and back, to Pluto and back. He's validated it. In his speech at Madison Square Garden in October 2024, he said, in just 9 days, the Great Liberation begins. He was talking about the election. The Great Liberation. Then he said on January the 20th, the Great Restoration begins. We are an occupied country. We will soon no longer be an occupied country. Occupied territory, Law War Manual. Restoration, Law War Manual. And military government term. That's where you do the Trump dance. President Trump has a quote about Iraq. He quoted about Iraq. He said, what did he say about Iraq? He said, why didn't we take the oil? Well, see, if you went to every libtard in the 90s, they'd tell you that, oh, we went to war for oil. Correct. But President Trump, when he speaks, he's speaking on behalf of whom? You the people, we the people, the American Republic, the United States of America. Why didn't we means you, me, United States of America. Why didn't we take the oil, the United States Treasury? Ooh. The Bushes took the oil for the Federal Reserve. Income tax. Which again, managed democracy, illusion of choice. They have done this all these years. And that's why President Trump puts in all caps laws and orders, because it ain't just laws and orders, it's the enforcement of laws and orders. And he's using all of their rhetoric, all of their terms, all of their legislation against them. So it doesn't matter if they say, oh, you can't do that, that's against the law, that's hypocrite. That's what you want them to do, because they're going a step further and putting a giant stamp of hypocrisy on themselves, which is going to expose them to you, and eventually all of your friends and family will finally see the light and go, so-and-so, they're a hypocrite. Don't vote them back in. Because you patriots, we know you know what I'm about to say, because you're gonna when I say it, you're still going to want to take a sledgehammer and hit yourself with it, right? You're going to need a heavy drink. You know what I'm saying? Like a VFW drink where you got like this much Coke and that much whiskey. You're going to need one of those. When you hear people like AOC, who could vote someone that dumb into office? Quit focusing on AOC. Let's think about the dumb idiots who are voting them in. They're the ones you got to worry about who are dumb. You got to worry about those brains who thinks that that person is intelligent. See, too many people focus on the ones who are obviously blatantly dumb because they're in the visual view. The ones who ain't in the visual view, who are putting their little signature somewhere and voting that moron in, those are the ones you got to worry about. Prime example. This also shows you why President Trump says, when he made the quote at the State of the Union, he'd already said it before then, but he said it at the State of the Union, all you needed was a new president. No, ladies and gentlemen. And President Trump knows when I say this, that ain't anything I say like that for President Trump, I'm showing you what he means by it. He don't mean, oh, all you needed was a new president. No, you didn't. Because if President Trump did this as a regular president, first off, there's no way he could have done it as a regular president. No way whatsoever. There's no way. And the national emergencies prove it that he's declared. The national emergencies that he's enforcing before he declared them, the ones before him. Executive orders, everything combined shows, no, he did not do this as a regular president whatsoever. The National Guard especially prove it. And the reserve components. There's no way. No, you didn't just need a president. You needed a president who would enforce the laws, right? Well, not just enforce the laws. He had to be the barrier when he says, I stand between you and them. He's not talking about individually as a man and individually as a president. He's talking about 45-47. He's drawn a line in the sand. This is a Red Sea parting. All right, and it's trying to get all of you out there with your brains, if you got them, to use them, to think, and to step across the good side and to make it applicable. So, for example, Elizabeth Warren was caught by a reporter getting on an elevator. Now, this is all theater. Patriots, you know what I'm about to say. This is all theater. But this has got to be displayed to that group of people out there that are in the laggard category, in the mainstream category, they got to see it this way. If you were a public official, and I'm not, but if I were, and you had questions, one, you need to have credible questions. All right? But if you have credible questions and I don't have time for you in a hallway, especially on business, not talking about the weekend or seeing me at the beach or seeing me somewhere where I'm, trying to get a little private life, that's it. Everybody deserves that. But if I'm dressed in a suit and tie and I'm walking down town hall, city council, somewhere, right, on an hourly time period, and I don't have time for your questions, all right? So if you watch Elizabeth Warren's recent interview, all right, where she was asked about the election laws, she's saying, we already have laws. That's perfect. That's exactly, that is perfect. Yes, we do, but y'all didn't enforce them. Right? But that is what the American public need to see. They need to hear that, see that. Now, is that real time, live time? No, not at all. Because Executive Order 13848, September the 12th, 2018, national emergency declared by President Trump, the National Guard deployed 2018, 2020, 22, and 24. Why would the National Guard be deployed in 22 and 24 if President Trump is a dictator, king, and a Nazi? See, I can show all along the way that the deep state are not doing anything. The deep state aren't there anymore. The deep state are not in panic because they're not there. How would the National Guard be out at the election polls in 22 and 24 on a presidential order from President Trump? Quote-unquote Joe didn't have one single Title 10, Title 14, Title 32 order or funding. So how would the National Guard operate in the United States of America? That's not an AUMF order, veterans. See, a lot of veterans out there say, oh, that's an order from 2001. It's open. No, it's not. Not the National Guard. Not on our domestic soil. Nuh-uh. No, it ain't. Not one single Title 10, Title 14 Coast Guard, Title 32 order or funding by quote-unquote Joe from 2021 to 2025. So how would the National Guard deploy? You can say state active duty, but that requires a Title 32 funding. How come quote-unquote Joe does not have a Title 32 funding under his belt? And that is where the 45-47 steps in. There are unique laws and orders that make up what they call PEDS, Presidential Emergency Action Documents. They're not drafted to the public. You can't look them up, but there's enough around it to show you that it's most certainly taking place. There are 4 ways that military pairs are federal. 4. Only 4. Proclamations, national emergencies, executive orders, and treaties. They all require the executive branch, the president. And then you have President Dwight David Eisenhower's contingency plan that he modified from the 30s. He modified it to use military government. And you can read about it on RutgersUniversity.edu. You can look it up, Google it, Atomic Midwife. Every one of President Trump's endorsements, every single endorsement by President Trump, guess who they are? It's an and or. This is where people have to listen. It's not an or, it's not an and. It's an and or scenario. Every single one of President Trump's endorsements are highly successful businessmen and or women and or special operations, Navy SEALs, and some just regular veterans. And when I say regular, they're colonels high up. That is the exact blueprint of President Dwight David Eisenhower's contingency plan, the Atomic Midwife, that outlines a military government. And that is exactly what 45-48 means. Because we have to make sure what we clean out has a chance to do what? Set foot. To educate. And also to put people in positions of knowing exactly what's taken place in the past, what has changed, what is now obliterated, decimated, but also make sure that everyone who gets in these positions are not compromisable. You're there for the mission, you're goal-oriented, and you're going to apply yourself in which and of the manner that the 45-48 is all about, leading into the future. So you're watching a true Declaration of Independence reset from 2017 to 2021. Unique laws and orders via executive orders, via the 4 ways that military pairs with federal. President Trump's 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that quote-unquote Joe continued all 4 years. Why? If President Trump is a dictator, king, and Nazi, election interference, the Hong Kong order, which applies to Panama, the Panama Canal, all right? I mean, we're talking about very big executive orders with national emergencies, enforcements that require National Guard, United States military, and reserve components. In the U.S., not just foreign, in the U.S. It makes 0 sense. So when you hear people out there saying the deep state's in panic, blah, blah, the deep state ain't there anymore. From 2021 to 2023, they displayed to the world that there was a Democrat president, a Democrat House, and Democrat Senate, and they couldn't terminate a single thing by President Donald John Trump. no tariff was terminated from 21 to 25. But all of a sudden in 25 and 26, they're a burden to the taxpayer. If you can't apply that simple logic, you need to quit. You need to go take up something that don't require a lot of thinking. It ain't golf. It's not knitting and crocheting. You need to just stare at wet paint drying. That's your new hobby. This is not difficult. But also this helps bring down all the bullcrap from social media. We can't have people running rampant thinking just because you have a First Amendment that you can say anything about the government and anything about the military that you want to, just because, oh, I'm free, I can say what I want to say. Well, you can look like a fool and a moron, sure. Do you want to look like a fool and a moron? Because if you don't know what President Trump's using, then that's what you're going to look like, especially if you claim to be an influencer out there. There's people who follow me on X, got big platforms. Oh, can President Trump really do this? Can he run for a... They didn't even realize that he said 4th term. He didn't even say it. They just skipped over 3rd term. They just showed all of you Americans out there that people can't even... Wait, why isn't he running for a 3rd term? And then you'll have the ones going, well, he's just saying that because he's saying that 2020 was hijacked and it wasn't, and he was really president and should have been the whole time. They don't even know that irregular warfare and unconventional warfare, there's a thing called a continuity government, a puppet government, and a military government that actually the president can invoke, and it expands his powers. So how can you truly appreciate the military if all you know is, oh, my cousin, he's in infantry and he kicked in some doors and da 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 da. I'm not knocking your cousin. But when you don't know that there's other aspects of the military that require massive variations of thinking skills and of application skills of unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, asymmetrical warfare, guerrilla warfare, and we can keep naming cyber warfare, etc. I'm just the person that God bestowed and gave the ability to take it all at one time and also put it in one application, in one blueprint, one strategy, and one podcast. Which again, exposes all those throwing crumbs at you. Because you don't need crumbs when you already have the full strategy and blueprint. So it's a triple, quadruple, quintuple whammy with someone like me. You don't need all that other out there. You need application. So 2017 to 2021, President Trump, all these unique laws, all these unique orders invoked. Then rolling into 2020, which would roll into 2021, very key. The War Powers Resolution, December the 20th, 2019. Section 1550, put in the War Powers Act, very key. What followed after that? All throughout 2020, you saw President Trump, Executive Order 13912, March 27, 2020. Title 10, Section 12302. That's a Title 10, that's a federalization of 1 million reserve components active duty. The national emergency wasn't inside that. So if that executive order sitting by itself is not terminated, it's still active. Means the president can utilize it at any time. We prevented that as best as possible. But then April the 30th, 2019, Executive Order 13919, Title 10, Section 12304, that's a 2-year preparation order. Come on, veterans. Come on now. You can't just apply Title 10, Title 32. You got to go into the sections of them. Got to know what each section does. So all that set up. The Abraham Accords and all the things, NAFTA was ended, we had the USMCA and all these things took place in 2020. Then you had the quote-unquote election, right? And then 9 days later, Executive Order 13959. So this is a key thing that shows, this one key order can show that quote-unquote Joe is not real and he wasn't president, ever. By law. Executive Order 13959 of the National Emergency, November the 12th, 2020. For the average American that knew how to go to the Federal Register and know how to look up executive orders, it would show that quote-unquote Joe enhanced that order with Executive Order 14032. Well, President Trump continue the national emergency on that executive order just last year to this year? Every 1 year. Why didn't he continue 14032? Why did he continue 13959? Because he told you in November and December 2025, all executive actions, executive orders, proclamations, national emergencies, treaties, pardons, and other documents by quote-unquote auto pen is hereby terminated. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in United States history, that would be a president revoking all executive orders, all proclamations, and all national emergencies for 4 years worth of a president. You know what kind of chaos that would create if those would have been real? You know what kind of judicial chaos? You know what kind of world chaos and military chaos that would be? If that was real, it'd be the same thing as a president going in and terminating all of President Trump's, every one of them for 4 years. There would be chaos and pandemonium like you've never seen before. You ain't seen that. So it shows that even patriots don't listen and apply what President Trump is saying, doing. There's the verbal, the verbiage, and then there's the application, which is your visual enforcements. And again, 21. So they roll into 21. President Trump invoked the continuity of government with Executive Order 13961 on December the 7th, 2020. 3 days later, to this day, July 26, 2026, to this day, the most recent order of succession within the Department of War is from Executive Order 13963 on December the 10th, 2020. Every president has had an order of succession with every military domain, especially the Department of War, except for quote-unquote Joe. So how was he meeting with the chief of staff? How was he meeting with generals? He didn't even have an order of succession. That was a continuity government. Federal Mission Resilience Strategy. Federal Continuity Directive 1, Federal Continuity Directive 2, January 17, 2020, June 13, 2020, 2017. Those continuity directives and the joint planning and joint operations of the military that coincide with those joint operations, joint planning, military, federal. Those continuity directives tie in with the continuity directive put out January the 1st and January the 15th, 2021. Reconstitution of the executive branch. No other reconstitution directive out there, ladies and gentlemen. The first time in U.S. history. Do you know what reconstitution means? You take something from its state it's in right now and put it back into its original. All of this is right after President Trump invokes the continuity of government. And then on December the 14th, the 7 swing states, ladies and gentlemen, nowhere in the United States history are the same swing states the same from the election and the follow-up election. No, it's statistically impossible is what Google will tell you. Google, AI, I tell you, it's statistically impossible. But 2020 and 2024, the same 7 swing states were the same. But right there in the middle, December the 14th, 2020, President Trump has a Supreme Court case that he filed December the 14th via the state of Texas against those 7 swing states. So he lost them all in 2020, but he won them all in 2024, and that Supreme Court case don't have anything to do with it. Woo! So all that was December 2020, your reconstitution of the executive branch, publication put out January the 15th. No wonder they showed you what they showed you January the 6th. But what you missed out on was the greatest thing in world history. The first time in election history on Inauguration Day, they showed 2 different sets of cannons. They've never shown the cannons at Arlington because all of us veterans, Arlington is a sacred ground, right? Now, they didn't do this on purpose to disgrace the military. They did this to show you what you were watching was not real. Quote-unquote Joe raised his right hand 11:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is a violation of the 20th Amendment. That's why when you watch the documentary Melania, they show all the processes in 12:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 12:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, might want to check that out. All right. So then The National Guard turned their backs to the motorcade. All of us veterans, now we've debated throughout history, do we salute the president, especially ones who've never been in the military before? There's been always debates about that. But we do salute them. And then also, one thing we always will do, even if we stop doing that, we always salute a moving flag. Not one single National Guard saluted the quote-unquote motorcade of quote-unquote Joe. Ladies and gentlemen, again, stop trashing the military. Stop saying, oh, they were pulling security. If you've never been in the military and you don't know military regulations, keep your snouts shut. Stop disgracing the military like that. They're showing you this greatest, most biblical, monumental, historical visual ever, that you're watching a movie. It's an operation. When the president takes his oath, raises his right hand, and I know the phone inverts the camera view, so it looks like my left on some views, but when he raises his right hand, as soon as the oath is administered, you'll hear bum ba da bum 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 ba da bum bum. You'll hear 4 of those. On the 4th ruffle, Hail to the Chief is to start, and at the same time, the 21 gun salute is supposed to start simultaneous. That is in Army regulations, hand salutes, ladies and gentlemen. 600-25. You might want to go look up Army regulations because it's the United States Army, the 3rd Infantry Regiment, known as the Old Guard. They're the oldest unit in the United States Army, 1784. They didn't make a mistake. They didn't pan over that day. And then they showed you President Trump on January the 20th, 2025. What did they do? Even though they were inside, they did this on purpose. They were inside, and the camera panned over outside to the National Capital Region, not Arlington. Every president has gone to Arlington all the way back to Bush. All right, visual for you to see on YouTube. Well, why is it that President Trump on January the 19th went to Arlington, not the 20th? They're separating the visuals for you. Because on January the 20th, 2021, the first time in inauguration history, they showed 2 different sets of cannons. The 4 cannons, 21 rounds, which is a 21 gun salute by definition, was at Joint Base Andrews with President Trump in a red carpet rollout. And the media told you this is a 3rd Infantry Regiment, the Presidential Battery. They didn't say that with quote-unquote Joe. And they showed the cannons as quote-unquote Joe was leaving the White House, which was not real, showed him leaving, going to Arlington. That's when they showed what the world thought was a salute. It wasn't a salute. If you go to Arlington National Cemetery, the Arlington National Cemetery will tell you, say, the cannon seen or heard at Arlington is not to be confused with the 21 gun salute. The cannon seen or heard at Arlington is a funeral honors. So I love using trolls just for an example. So about 3 years ago, I had a troll on True Social, claimed to be in the Army for 20-something years and all this. I finally caught Derek Johnson lying. I caught him. They always show the cannons at Arlington. Yeah, when they're at Arlington for an actual Arlington cemetery, not on Inauguration Day. They have never shown the cannons on Inauguration Day to separate the actual funeral honors of a real soldier who passed away or dignitary versus Inauguration Day. Then you got another moron out there, claims to be a veteran, all right, tried to apologize one time and has already reneged on his apology. Well, sorry, pal. When you mess with a bull, you get the you-know-what horns. All right, well, same thing. Well, that didn't have anything to do with death from that angle. They had to show something that made it look real to the public. But what they displayed to the public was not a 21 gun salute by definition. And this is where people struggle because your itsy bitsy teeny weeny tiny minds you just can't seem to take terms and go, the 21 gun salute is 4 cannons with the presidential salute battery. It is not at Arlington. The Arlington is a funeral honors, and it's 3 cannons. And what they showed that day was 2 separate sets of cannons for the first time in the United States election inauguration history. But they didn't show it immediately after quote-unquote Joe took the oath by Army Regulation 600-25. It's not that difficult. They showed quote-unquote Joe have a funeral honors for his quote-unquote inauguration. It didn't say, and I never said, oh, Joe Biden's dead. Never said that. And that's where people struggle. The display for President Trump was the actual inauguration service because it was an official presidential salute battery, the 3rd Infantry Regiment, and the media told you that. And he had a red carpet rollout. So many people struggle with the simplest things, and that's why they can't comprehend the most biblical, historical, monumental operation known to man. So then, only 3 things were consistent from 21 to 25 around quote-unquote Joe. Only 3. The headbands that they showed January the 20th, 2017 with President Trump when he took his oath. Military intelligence. Judge Advocate General. And one more. It sounds like 2, but it's only 1. Civil affairs and psychological operations. Psychological operations. Irregular warfare. Unconventional warfare. Asymmetrical warfare. Cyber warfare. Guerrilla warfare. All kinds.